G'day, and with Inforunners, I'm Execute. I hit the wrong button. I'm an idiot. I meant to hit this button. There we go. That was my joke set up for later, and I ruined it. Ruined the whole joke! I was about to say, oh, doesn't Tristan look so bored down there, boys? All right, you get down there, go, down you go. But I ruined
you practiced so long.
No, I did. No, I didn't. I've been in a rush because I took a shower and had a shave, and I was trying to get all professional and stuffed it all up. But anyway, all right. So as you two gents know, today we're going to be speculating our asses off. We're going to be doing this all live. We're going to go through. We're just going to find things. We're going to do it with you guys in chat as well. We're literally just going to go through, and we are going to go through every ship that we know about. What we think's coming for Invictus, all that type of thing. That's why I got these two gentlemen to come along as well. And yeah, I built some new scenes out and stuff as well, so I can do things like this. I can go, oh, it's Grim. I think Grim is this. Nope, wrong one. Grim's that one. So I can,
fancy.
I can do this and all this stuff. And if I get really bored and you guys know me, I can just do that. No, just
getting fancy with these transitions.
I did a whole bunch of them. So yeah. Tristpwn got himself up with a visualizer, so he can take that onto other shows and do that. So that was really cool. And I actually like what you did with it. It actually looks pretty cool with the helmet. Very clever.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
it works.
I guess we'll start this out. Do you want to? Because Grim's pretty known. He's been on a few times. So I think we should probably just sort of a bit. Like, I'll get you to talk about yourself too, Grim. But Trist, do you want to tell people what you do and probably what most people would probably know you for at the moment? Because you've made a couple of cool videos that have really kind of gone a bit viral within the community.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So most well known might obviously be the Galaxy stuff that I did. I built the Galaxy interior and that kind of exploded. I think that's the biggest one I did so far. And I did basically tours of the interior that I rebuilt and just talking while walking around. Try to make it as immersive as possible. Immersive is disaster doesn't work, so I just took that. And since then I basically, like Grim, look at stuff that isn't out yet and just make up what I think it could be. Sometimes I build stuff, sometimes I draw stuff. Currently I'm building the Ironclad, and that's behind me there. And you might be maybe you talked about the drawings that I did. They got a bit more attention than I expected in the last weeks.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I do.
That is probably what I was talking about. But that's fine. I'd like you to talk about yourself in the way you want to talk about yourself. Yeah. Right. So we are. I think. Is there any place where you guys would want to start? I think I have one. I wrote it down earlier.
Okay.
And we can go through these four, and then I think after that, we also when we get into more kind of rarer ones, we do want to pull in chat and get you guys to weigh in as well. So this will not be the typical ask questions type of stream. It's going to be a lot more interactive, and it's going to be a lot of discussion. There will be a lot of talking over each other because me and Grim have done this before. It's a real mental exercise. It's like I will say something and it'll give him an idea and he'll think of something, and then me and Trist will come back with it. Like it's a bounce, right? So it's this hot and fast type of idea thing, and we want you guys to get in and put things in. So we'll be double checking chat as well and things like that, and see if anything rattles out. And I have an episode coming out as an example this weekend on the Titan suits, and that Titan suit episode had some stuff come out of it when Essay was on it with me. And I've just realized I do need to do something else. We need to do a draw really quickly for that Golem giveaway. I totally forgot about it. That I keep forgetting about from the other week. So just give me a second. I got to open up my that little shark thing that you showed me. Comment picker thing.
Yeah, comment shark.
Oh, comment right. Yeah,
comment shark. Yeah. Yep.
And the video was when was it? God, I can't remember now.
I like comment shark a lot, but the one thing I learned, well, I don't know, maybe I was doing it wrong, but I felt like it couldn't do videos that were previously live. It could only do like VODs unless they changed it or fixed it. But I do like that app though.
Well, we're about to find out.
About to find out. It'll work for you because it's you. The internet loves you, Execute.
Okay, if you say so. Beg to differ. Right, here we go. All right, we're doing the draw. Wait, hopefully. Wait, it didn't work. Oh, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you're right. Maybe it doesn't do it for live ones. Look, it won't work.
Yeah. So I had this issue before. I ended up having to choose a VOD video, but but I thought they fixed it. I thought I'd messaged them actually, and they said, "Oh, you should be able to pull it now." So,
God damn it, this is so annoying.
There's other random YouTube comment pickers. I'm just not sure offhand what they are.
This is gonna be such a dirty show today. It's gonna be like so unorganized.
But you know what? I see the people in chat. These are a lot of familiar names here, and they watch my stream, so they're used to dirty, raw, rough, unprofessional content. So they are very used to it.
Filter duplicate users. No. 3 + 1 is 4. But P was on. No, it's not 45. It's 4. Thank you. And get your comments. That work? Oh, it appears to be working. This one though, you can't filter certain people and stuff. So sometimes I have to redraw these. So if this,
gotcha.
Who wins? Sandgroper. He's an Australian. I actually know who he is. There you go, Sandgroper. So if you're in chat, he's in WA. I'm sure he'll be along later. He usually turns up later because it's pretty early for him right now.
Sandgroper, he won on my stream last night.
Oh, you did bullshit. Oh, he did too. He did.
He did. He won. He did. A lucky bastard. He won a custom ship in Fleet Viewer.
Yeah. Actually, that's what. Oh, we need to talk about that. So you guys are doing St. Jude stuff at the moment, right? So I had an idea, right? We want a Cult of the Endeavor on the Star Hanger. So how much is it going to cost?
Well, that's a good choice. You know, I'd do it regardless. But
I know you would. But like, let's what $1,000. If we can get $1,000 from people today, we'll get us a Cult of the Endeavor on Hangerlink. What do you reckon?
You know, hey, if it can be made to happen, you know, whether it's $5 or $5,000, anything is good, obviously.
All right, so I'll open that link that you sent me. Where was it? Hang on, I did ask you for it yesterday.
Yeah, I could send it to you again too if you need to.
No, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Thank you. All right.
Oh, I just DM'd it to you too.
Yeah, this is cool. So this is St. Jude. So at the moment, Starjump is trying to raise money for St. Jude. I'll let you talk about it because you're a lot better than me. But as far as I'm aware, this is a children's cancer hospital, and the people that go there don't pay any money during their stay. So it totally takes care of all their bills so their kids can get better. That's essentially as I understand it.
100%. They focus on sick kids and their families. The people that go there for treatment do not pay a hospital bill at all. It's completely funded through stuff like this. And right now through April and May, they do something called St. Jude Play Live, and that's where content creators around the world kind of bandy together to raise money. Starjump Guardians, which is our sort of charity umbrella at Starjump, have been doing it for the last few years. Obviously, Starjump and they're putting a lot of work into it. This year, I've been kind of helping out in a bigger way, and it's been great. We've already crossed the $9,000 mark, and we've only been raising money for 25 days, so it's great. We still have another month to go.
So you have 2 giveaways going there. You have is it $15 for a misfortune, if I'm reading that correctly?
So if you donate $15 to the Tiltify link there, the Starjump one, when you donate, you can do it there under the Misfortune. If you do $15 or $45 or whatever, for every $15 you donate, you'll get a Misfortune raffle ticket. We're going to give that away tomorrow. So for example, if you donate $15, you get 1 ticket. If you donate $30, you get 2 tickets for it. And then on April 30th, we're giving away the first of 2 RSI Polaris Corvettes. That is a $100 St. Jude donation. You get a raffle ticket for that. We've had great turnout for that. And then in May, we got a ton of other stuff too. We got an Anvil Carrack, another RSI Polaris, Super Hornet, Hurricanes. We got all kinds of great stuff. So shout out to our donators too that donated ships and stuff to support this. GearCon, Lazy Donuts, Bingo Winchester, all of them really came out. James from Icon City donated a stream deck that we gave away in early April. So yeah, it's been very successful. As you know, Execute, the community that surrounds especially our 2 shows, but just Star Citizen in general is awesome.
So I thought if we can pull a little bit of our audience, maybe we can get a little bit more help your way.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And maybe in return you can give us a Cult of the Endeavor skin. I thought that'd be pretty funny.
Consider it done. Consider it done. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Right. So now all kind of the business is out of the way. We've done the golem. So someone let Sangroper know when he turns up. He will turn up in Twitch chat that he won, and where everyone thinks it's rigged because he won 2 of them on 2 different channels. But you saw it. I did it live. I did it live and raw. There's no other way. There's no way I can fake that.
No, he got it. It's legit. It's legit.
It's bullshit, but it's still legit. Yeah. So, all right. So if we go through the leaks and stuff that have come out, Tristpwn, I think I'll start with you. What do you think of the ships coming for Invictus? Are you muted, mate? I can see you talking, but I can't hear you.
No.
Nope.
I'm not muted. I think it picks up your voice because you're so loud.
Sorry.
I think the TAC for sure.
Yep. I think we'd all agree on that. We can probably put a big line through on that one. It's pretty obvious. I don't think anyone really needs to speak to that too much. It's we've already got the max. It's pretty obvious. The build's obviously going to be held off from base building.
Yeah.
Next one.
Then that grey cat thing for sure, whatever that may be.
Now we can speculate a little bit on this one. I actually think there are going to be 2 variants of this. I think there is, because what they've found is they've found things that lean towards an MTC and an MTX, right? And if you remember, there was a grey cat cav they found, and the grey cat cav had missiles on it, right? That is an MTX, is it not? We know the X seems to be for missiles, or MX means to missiles, and especially a lot of the Guardian and the Mirai ships, right? So if you have a missile variant, and they're both, I think what they both are is they have the ability to be a vehicle recovery vehicle, right? If you think about that then all of a sudden understands why Grey Cat is making a military vehicle, because they essentially are workhorses, right?
Fair enough.
So I think it's like a multi-wheeled. I don't think it's track-based either. A lot of people think it's track-based. I don't think it is. I think it's just wheels, and maybe like a, what do you call it, an armadillo or whatever the name is, where it's like 3 to 4 wheels on each side. And I think there's 2 variants, a missile variant, and then I think there is a tactical one, and the tactical one is designed almost for scanning and kind of like telling people where things are, so like a command and control style one. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I differ from you on that one.
Okay, go for it.
And part of my thinking is, if it is straight to drivable, I'm very doubtful CIG is going to put out any new vehicles or ships that rely on new gameplay features. And not that scanning is not in the game, but I feel like that level of command and control scanning is not there yet. So what I think the MTX or the MTC is, the Mobile Tactical Center, I really am starting to believe it's a mobile ground-based armory. It's an armory like on a ship, but it's ground-based, and you can use it for assaulting bases and stuff. So it can carry a lot of weapons. It can carry some extra suits of armor, etc.
The tactical is in military tactical. I can see that too. Yeah, I can see that.
And it's not direct frontline combat. It's a support vehicle. So I could see Grey Cat doing that. And with so much ground-based combat going on, armories are a big deal in ships. I mean, the the Starlancer TAC has an onboard armory, as does the Max actually. But they have armories. A lot of ships have armories. Some ships are getting expanded armories, for example. The Polaris has one. All these ships have armories, so we know that's important to CIG. So I think this is a mobile ground-based armory. It wouldn't require any new feature tech, and it's something that could come into the game. Now, what it's useful for, that's up to debate, but that's what I think. That's where my current head is at.
Real quick, Tristan, if you put a noise gate and a noise suppression filter on your microphone, it won't be picking me and Grim up, because you can put it to the certain level and it won't hear our sound. It'll only hear yours when you go over the gate. If you know how to set
I'm sorry. Yeah, can you adjust? Where's it again?
So here real quick, we're doing it live and raw. So this is So if you click on your microphone and go to filters, so the little 3 dots, and then go to filters, then you can add filters here, much like you can on other stuff. You want to add a gate, noise gate, and a noise suppression, and the defaults probably should be sufficient. And then you'll stop talking when we're talking, and only when you talk. And if it mutes you, you then need to lower the gate a little bit so it can hear you. But you should be okay.
Let's see if that is better.
Well, it's not going up when I talk anymore, but it's not going up as much as it was. But anyway, so what are your thoughts on that one, Tristan, on the MX and the MTC?
So I'm with you on the MX or MTX, definitely, because we heard about that month ago already, right? About
6
the
months
missile
almost.
variant.
Almost 6 months
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised when we heard something different now, but to make sense to me. The armory, I mean, it makes kind of sense, but I don't really see the control center in there that they, I don't know the exact wording of the leak, but I don't see that matching up perfectly. And also, do we need an armory vehicle, or is it just?
Yeah, I don't think that's the whole thing. Is I kind of don't understand what it would be useful for, so I'm not even sure I like buy my own speculation.
Right.
But I
same with,
I would be super doubtful like that they would bring in something that is like tactical in terms of like battlefield information and in that feature not being the game, you know.
Yeah.
I don't see that feature really.
I think
like sharing information around the battlefield, that does not seem like anything that
not yet
you
anyway.
couldn't do outside of the game. Yeah.
Not yet anyway. I think it will be. You got to realize that Chris Roberts is a really big fan of Battlefield series. He brought it up a lot when I interviewed him. And you can see that's kind of where they're going with the ground warfare. But I think once the bases come in, once the bases are in and there's a lot more ground to defend, I think that's when we'll see a lot more ground vehicles come in. The Titan suits are obviously coming. Stuff like that. So it's not quite there yet, but I think if you think about it, if it's an 18-month window, I think they've been prepping for it, is what I'm trying to say.
The other thing I'll say about that real quick is that, and it's not to say CIG does not overlap on stuff. We all know they do. The only thing I keep thinking about too is I keep thinking about the Ballista, Spartan, Centurion level vehicles. We know another one of those in development too, which I won't go down that path right now. But just thinking about this MTC or MTX vehicle, we have so much ground-based combat coverage in both that series of ground vehicles and the Cyclones. You know what I mean? Like so much coverage. I mean, with so many variants, from AA variants to turret variants to minigun variant, whatever. I was really struggling to think of like, well, what could a combat-focused tactical ground vehicle be that we don't already have in one of two sizes, either big ballista size or cyclone size. And ultimately that's kind of why I went to the armory thing, because I was just like, well, what else could we have that's new but that also wouldn't rely on any new tech? Now that being said, I would expect a mobile armory to be able to hold suits and stuff too, and suit lockers don't function, so technically I guess that is a feature we don't have in game. But I don't know. I
think the other part of it has been that there's been a really kind of, like, I'm noticing it, and I think you guys have been noticing it too, that they seem to be doing variants of when new ships come out there, they're coming out with variants. Like there's there's not a lot as many one-offs anymore. It seemed to be like I'm fully expecting there to be a Golem variant hidden away somewhere that's coming sooner or later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, I did see a donation come in of $30 already for Cult of the Endeavor. So whoever that was, Focus, I think. Focus, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Execute.
No, thank me. Thank them. I just put the message out. Right. So that's kind of that one knocked down a bit. We've already done the style answer. The Guardian MX. Now I did talk about this on here, but we also talked about it heavily on your stream, Grim. We got the whole Guardian double dog thing coming out and all that type of thing we were talking about. But basically, to crack this one down without going over it again, unless Tristan, you want to go into it in detail because I know you weren't there. Essentially appears to be a Guardian that basically carries, I believe, to be at least size 10 torpedoes. I think you would agree with me on that, Graham, unless you've got a different take.
It makes the most sense from what has leaked out. If you think of it in terms of CIG wanting the most coverage for like the most usage out of new ordnance. We know that there's new size 10 torpedoes coming out. Sure, that could be just for the Polaris, which I think is fine. But it seems like it would make sense if there was another vehicle coming or another ship that could support that.
Okay.
I also suspect, not to tangent too much, but I also suspect that those two different types of torpedoes that are developed, the size 10s, could be a little bit of a prelude to some early work for the Perseus, which we know the Perseus isn't coming for Invictus, but we know the Perseus is supposed to carry different types of weaponry, both in its main guns and torpedoes, I was assuming. So it, again, could be a little bit of a prelude to that. But
yeah, so just above Tristpwn there, you can kind of see along the edges of the silhouette, there's kind of like two little pip things there. They're not on any other Guardian. It really does look like they're essentially torpedo racks. There are a few other things like on the nacelles that look different as well. So it is pretty easy ship to modify if you think about it. It's the same nacelles 4 times over. Kind of do that. What's your thoughts on that, Tristan? We've kind of...
I have not featured that in my video because I wasn't too sure, but I mean, I'm with you with the rockets and torpedoes. That is the most likely. The only thing I still haven't figured out is this looks super different from the Guardian we have, and especially if you look at the landing gear, it does not look like Guardian landing gear. It looks honestly like MISC landing gear.
Yeah, well, again, it could have been a placeholder too. This was over 6 months ago.
Fair enough.
So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there probably isn't the only variant. There might be an MX and something else as well. Because again, if they're going to put all that work in, they're trying to get dual use out of it. So you could
to be fair, and I actually watched Trist's video on this, which was really good, by the way. If any of you haven't seen Trist's video where he lines up models to the silhouettes, it's pretty awesome. But the landing gears, I will say, is something that I have noticed in past silhouette videos has been inaccurate. For example, a good example of that, but this is not the only example, would have been the Polaris. When they showed that in the silhouette video, the landing gears were the old hollow model landing gears. They look nothing like what we got. So that aside, I will say that the Fury MX has some pretty semi-substantial changes to the regular Fury, right?
So
just like, it doesn't have like the armored cockpit and everything.
So just to back you up here, there is no landing gear on the medical Terrapin in the silhouette.
Well, yeah, okay, there you go.
There's none.
There you go. Yeah.
None. It's just sitting on the ground.
Someone get on the horn with Ben Curtis immediately.
I think that the cockpit is not looking like MISC. It does not look like Mirai.
Well, the funny you said that,
so
people instantly said to me, I think it was Pissball Pete that said it, will it have a shield like the Fury MX? And it totally could. He's totally correct. It could have that shield thing.
Well,
I don't even see that.
I have another theory. So you know how we were kind of looking at the model and we thought that we couldn't when we looked at the Guardian model and you put it in this position, you very clearly saw the Guardian's engines behind the nacelles. That was very clear. You saw the round engines. They were not. Yeah. You could easily see them. You do not see them at all here. Now, mind you, they could have just had the engines turned off because in the Ironclad silhouette, they don't have the command module on it. However, I was almost starting to wonder if because this Guardian silhouette that we're seeing, the nacelles look so much thicker and chunkier. I was wondering if this variant, the engines are embedded in the nacelles themselves. So it's got a completely different,
You did bring that up. You could actually have 4 engines come out of this nacelle, So that's the shield up the Fury MX, by the way, Tristan, if you haven't seen that. So imagine something like that, but then on the... Oh, shit. I wrote the wrong one. I did it twice. Right, on that. You can I can see that as a possibility. It makes a lot of sense. You get this little extra shield because you don't have any guns. Makes a lot of sense to me. Right. We're down to the last one now for Invictus.
Can we ask one more question on this though? Because I know we're starting to talk about these ships and their tiers that they fall into. Now, I think CIG is doing things a little different this year, and that may affect what ships we get ultimately. But we're kind of generally there's the low tier, mid tier, and high tier cost range for the ships that come out for these big events. We're thinking the Grey Cat is the small thing, right? The Guardian is that middle. What price point is the regular Guardian? Where does that sit currently?
It's about $250.
Okay, so the MX could very well be right there.
I think the Qui's $260 and it's $250 Guardian.
Okay.
That's just memory.
So this could be a $270 ship for all we know.
Could also be $250 because it's like the Fury and it doesn't have guns.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
I honestly don't know. I would say it's in that ballpark. Thank you, Arthur Dundelay, for the 100 yen. I think that's 500 yen.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you, Arthur.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm
Thank you, Arthur.
not really up on my currency icons of late, but it looks like yen to me. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so that would then leave the Starlat's attack that would be slightly above that. But I think the last one we're going to talk about is the Anvil Asgard.
Yeah.
There was a lot pointing to what this could be. There's a recording that we've played before. I think for the sake of brevity, we can all say it exists and we've all heard it. Played it on stream a few times, played it on Grim stream a few times. So for me, I think it says it's a heavy transport. Now, when I think of heavy transport, I think back to when the Valkyrie was actually defaultly there. And the Valkyrie, to me, it was always like, this is a real shame that you can't fit an overtank in it or a ballista.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain goes to what would be better than a Hercules is a smaller ship that just carries one really large vehicle. That's kind of where I first went. But with the other stuff that we're going to talk about today, I think we can't rule out the idea of a Titan suit transporter either. Quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you think the sneak peek is the Asgard? Wait, they always do this. Apparently, there's a sneak peek for. Can someone send it to me on Discord? Because I always get it later than other people.
I got it to you right now. There it is. It's coming to you right now. It's boom. It's there.
All right, let's bring this up. We'll do it live.
I just thought the same.
Right, clicking it over now.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Jacob, with the £2 donation or super chat. Thank you very much.
So I think Grim looked at it the longest. What do you think it is?
I think it's a very small vehicle. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, those guns there, aren't those the size 2s? In addition to that, you can look on that circular piece there, that kind of circular housing that rail system there is kind of in. You can see the obvious, like the geometry there, meaning that the geometry itself is not so big that it can look smooth to the eye. It's a smaller form factor, so you can actually see the kind of the low poly side of the geometry. So I just think what we're looking at is a smaller vehicle. This could be the MTX for all we know.
There's a couple of things I want to bring up that I can see, right? I agree with you on the two guns, right? But I think it's a part of a turret. And then when you look at this white area here, that is remarkably similar to the track on the Scorpius. As in, look at the look at the pattern and the track. Now, if this is the Asgard, it could be that the Valkyrie, it's not a Valkyrie variant, it's like a Paladin. They're doing the Paladin and the transport at the same time. So the Asgard and the Paladin
has the tracks too. That's what I want to say. But
yeah. Well, go ahead. You say what you want to say. Go ahead.
But what Grim just said, it does not really line up with the size of this. CIG knows how cameras work, and with these kind of defocus, that is a tiny object. So I don't think it's even big enough for a Paladin.
Yeah.
I mean, the Paladin is 53 meters long ship's pretty big. Not that
the
it couldn't
other
be
thing
that.
is, what if it's just a ship that we've never seen before?
Also possible, yeah.
But that
Also
I again, as we always say when we look at these, there's always just enough to hang yourself. It's a pain in the ass. Hang on. Gazlaw says, I don't always speculate spaceships, but when I do, it's with Inforunners. Thanks, guys. All appreciate it. Gazlaw, yeah, you can have a like for that one.
I mean,
right.
yeah, it's obviously the picture is designed to be done in such a way that we cannot really see what the hell it is. From the materials there, it does look like it has a high level of specularity. So when I look at that, I always think like, okay, which ships generally have base textures with like high specularity? In the past, that's usually ships like Misk, Drake sometimes, and I'm sure there's others, where it's a little bit more that chromish kind of like shinier metal. Anvil and stuff is usually a lot more matte finished. Again, not that this is not Anvil, I'm just saying.
It does have a very big circular motif, though, in line with what I would expect of that. The other thing I'm thinking of is we do know from the, if I bring it up, it might be a little bit easy to bring up. Hang on, Paladin. God, learn to type. Jesus. Shit when I'm under pressure. Right. So if we,
one other thing I would bring up though, just real quick, is that, and again, I'm not saying this is what it is. I look at those guns and I say, well, what do we know that's coming has those guns? That gray cat looking vehicle in the silhouettes does have a dual size 2 weapon mount up there, or size 1, whatever that is. Those guns, I forget the name of them. So I just think it's something smaller. I really do.
And I think it probably, looking at this, like there's no armor plating really in those shots. But what I was going to say is it could possibly be this, because this is split. There is nothing back here on this side, right? So if you had the camera angle right, it could be. But I think I'm kind of in agreement with what you're saying there. I think this is something else.
Just size-wise, this could be small enough to be just an Atlas suit, like the back of someone with the rocket packs on the shoulders there. Just size-wise, not saying it is that, but this does not even have to be a ship at all.
The other thing
if you look at
the other thing is, I don't think these guns are attached to the turret. I think this is a turret track, and I think these guns are, you know what I mean? Like, they don't look like they're attached to this turret. I'd almost expect this to be where the turret is, or something like that. It's really weird where they're placed. The gun, like, even if they do look like guns, but they're just in a really weird spot, almost like they pop up and fold out or something. It's really strange. You know what I mean? Like if that was a turret, you'd expect it to be almost right where Grim's head is sitting, right?
Right.
And they're like further back down that way, almost like it's a track where the turret is stowed in between. That kind of comes up and goes out. Do you know what I mean? Like it's packed away for takeoff or something like that.
Yeah. There was also that other sneak peek image from a few weeks back. That one I think was the Guardian, or whatever that Guardian variant is. Personally, that's what I think that variant, that sneak peek was. I mean, I could totally be wrong, but it seems like it lines up most with that.
I agree with you on that as well. That was just like the kind of engine from above type of thing, the spine.
It was kind of sleek looking too, so it almost had like this little spoiler piece, and it kind of just made me feel like, okay, if a high performance manufacturer was designing something, they'd give it a little spoiler or something like that. So it made sense. But yeah, I think going back to the Asgard, I mean, look, here's the only thing I will say about it, and it's mainly just to temper people's expectations. I have looked through the data too. I data mine the hell out of it, and people have said that there's these things that say it's a Valkyrie variant. They may very well have found it. I found no direct links that suggested it was a Valkyrie variant, other than just guessing.
Exactly the same measurements and stuff like that was what I was told. Like a lot of the same. Because when it first appeared
the measurements I'm always
it first appeared up, they had exactly the same stats, like the same fuel and stuff like that before they modified them.
Oh, okay. That I didn't see. I don't go off measurements though, because the measurements are almost always wacky.
Measurements and components, fuel amounts and stuff like that, all that type of stuff. Yeah,
that's a big deal. And I will say, I do think it is a Valkyrie variant. I've been sort of convinced of that, but I'm just saying that there was no dialogue. Not only that, there's no dialogue in the information that wasn't like component based that even suggested it was a ship. It could have been a ground vehicle. I think it is a Valkyrie variant. I'm saying that it's not like there was like a treasure trove of information when I data mined it. Now maybe there was a bunch before the build I got, so that's very possible.
This image here, though, I don't think this is it. I think there's a first-time chatter called Shadowfox on Twitch that says, in the circular section, the bolts look too big to be a ship. And I hadn't seen that, and I tend to agree with him. I think kind of like what you guys are saying, this could more likely be a vehicle. Bloody also says, the Ursa packs the gun away on a track for transport. 100% start to think of, I think this could be actually a vehicle. It seems to be a lot lower to the ground, even with the blur in the background as well, and the scale of certain things in the shot makes me think it probably is a vehicle. So this could just be a gun on the Grey Cat MTX or something like that as well.
So, and not to throw you off, but obviously you see how in that image the gun looks like it's almost like very low mounted. Now,
That's what I
maybe it
mean.
rises up. It's still very low mounted, but if you look at that MTX, or what we think is the MTX silhouette, I just DM'd it to you as well for quick reference, but you'll see how low that gun sits on top of that vehicle too. Like, it does not stick up far. It's very like low to the surface. It's not like sitting up on some big like mount or anything. It's almost very flush.
I've got all these really nice high res ones that Tristpwn sent me, so I always open those because they're way better than what anyone else has.
Yeah.
And we'll be using them a lot today. So yeah, it is fairly low. That actually doesn't. So if you look up here, guys, you can just see the two guns sticking out there. So it is fairly low. I reckon that's probably got to do with like lowering the height so it can fit in more vehicles.
It could, yeah. It could, yeah, absolutely.
And again, if you go back to the sneak peek, it actually does look like that's what it's doing. It's essentially packing back down to lower its height. I think this is a bit of a MacGuffin. I think if you look at it, that's definitely a track. So this turret kind of rises up and sits on the track. I reckon you've got an MTC with guns, like you said, possibly tactical arm suits or something like that. And then I think the MTX won't have the guns, but it will have missiles. Well, that's kind of where my brain's going. I could be completely utterly wrong, but yeah, I think this is actually the MTC. By the way, to the writing team, your naming is shit. No offense, that's a really bad name. It's so bad. Nobody's going to use that. They're going to call it the Armadillo or something like that because it's too hard to remember. I'm just calling you out. I'm sorry, it's garbage.
I'm going to say, I'm going to bring up our first bit of controversy for the evening. Amchuka over on Twitch said it's got Drake vibes. Now, I don't think it's that. I do think it's this Grey Cat thing, but I will say this. We can't forget that it's also possible CIG is just really trying to troll us right now, and this maybe is something we don't know about. And the only reason I'm going into that is that we assume we're getting the standard 3 straight to flyable or flight ready vehicles and possibly a concept.
So I've been told by multiple people CIG we're going to be eating very pretty for ships this year. Right?
Okay, well then let me posit this.
Yeah.
What if 4.1, is there any possibility we could be getting a 4.1 ship?
Absolutely, that's what's
for
happening.
The end of April.
Because
one of those could be one of these we're talking about.
Absolutely. Put it this way: one of the CIG devs literally told me he's buying a popcorn machine just for when me and Asgard review ships. That was his joke. So if he's buying a popcorn machine, like that kind of anyway. But I look at this and I try to pick the manufacturer out of this, and I'm struggling a little bit. I see RSI things. I see I don't really see Grey Cat, but again, it's just always just enough rope to hang yourself. The big shiny thing always makes me think of Misk. I don't know.
We don't currently have a Grey Cat vehicle that's like combat either, or like even combat support, right? We have the Rock, and we have the Steed. What all do we have?
They're all little workhorse buggies, basically. They're all little quad buggies, like the Rock DS, STV, and the PTV, and we know about the UTV, but they're all buggies.
Right. So we don't have so far there has not been a Grey Cat ship that was even really aligned with combat at all, even in a support role. So that would even be a sort of change in direction. Now, I am a firm believer that industrial brands should make military equipment too, because that is how it actually works in the real world. You know, Boeing makes passenger jets, but also makes fighter jets. So it makes total sense. But
you got a big stick.
Go ahead.
You got a big stick. Can you just poke Tristpwn for him, make sure he's not dead? I think he hasn't talked.
I'm not dead.
You got to talk up, bro.
No,
you got to talk up. We're going to fight to speak here. It's a fight.
He's listening to us going, these idiots, they don't know what they're talking.
You got to speak up, Trist. That's how this goes. You just got to push out your ideas and don't worry about being wrong, because we'll shoot you down in flames. But it creates really good ideas regardless. So you just got to speak up. And I know you're not used to working with other people, but that's okay. We'll get you to do it.
No, I'm German. We were told not to fight.
Oh, Harrison Jones on Twitch has kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah, go for it. The image is
Harrison Jones on Twitch says the image could be upside down. Maybe that's the belly of a ship. It kind of sort of looks like it could be, to be totally honest, but you never know.
I see where Drake is coming from. I see the Drake in the colors. The color-wise, it really looks like the Golem to me.
Well, can I be honest? The colors I said are red and white. There's only 2 ships I can think of: the Mirai Guardian and the RSI Aurora.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the
And
red.
the medical terrapin.
There's a little, medical terrapin. There's a little bit of yellow as well. So, I look at the manufacturer, but just the shiny chrome stuff is scream and miss.
If there is a predominantly white texture or material palette for this, though, then it could very well be Gray Cat.
Yeah,
they're
white is
whiter
Gray
or
Cat.
gray, whatever you want to say. Yeah,
you are true.
So
that is true.
It can be possible.
And maybe because it's slightly skewed towards military, it's a little bit off the cuff. Yeah, I could get behind that.
What if Gray Cat did what Misk did and started a secondary brand that did cater to military? That'd be kind of interesting.
What if it's like Misk and Aegis, where they collabed on the Gemini? What if it's a collab with another manufacturer, so it's a bit mixed? I don't know. I'm leaning towards vehicle. I think the jury will be out on this one until it comes around. But I will totally agree with the gentleman. Was it Harrison? It says upside down. Yeah, Harrison Jones. Because we have seen from previous ones they've been literally upside down and around, and they've moved all the lights to make it think it's somewhere else that it's not. So yeah, I'll totally give you that one. Right.
They did some tricky imaging, like manipulation, like think on the pulse, for example. The pulse had some like really tricky photography going on. The tricky.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's talk about some of the bigger ones. I think we can all agree by now, but based on the monthly report, that the Perseus is not coming. The Perseus, we in Argyle were calling it way before when people were calling it. And I know we weren't the only ones, but that was a really big bit of information that all ships take 18 months. And once you have that, God, it makes it so much easier to speculate on stuff coming now.
And I will say it's a shame because it would have been a great ship for Invictus, but I get it. It's fine.
I think it'll be a great ship for AIE.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It would have been a great ship for the Polaris mission line, right?
Yeah, well, if you think about it from a money perspective, right, and don't think about it with your lore hat on, from a lore hat perspective, military ship, military sail, makes sense. But AIE is the predominant large sail of the entire thing. They know how much we want that ship. I kind of blame myself for hyping it up back when I did SC Leaks, because we talked about that ship the entire year before it was announced, and I feel like they just kept pushing the price up and up and up and up. So I blame myself a lot for that. But that ship is just insanely wanted now. So many people have gone out and brought it. I just they would have the data to say which one is more popular, and so they will put that ship front and center, knowing kind of where it's coming out. So I have no doubt they will sell a crap ton, and because they know they make more money at that time, and a lot of people have to see the ship and see what it's going to be before they'll buy it. AIA all the way.
Yeah.
Do you think it will even be ready for the end of the year?
So my hope, right? We've seen the silhouette. If you go back and look at it, and me and Alga discussed this when it happened, was you remember how they had the Starkitten Pulse and the Starkitten Armor, and in the background they had the Perseus. You remember that from like about a couple of months ago?
Yeah.
No.
You don't? Oh shit! All right. I do not have a copy of it. If someone's got a copy of that, can you please send it to me? The image where it has the Perseus in the background. We'll show Tristan, and it'll also good for people in chat that haven't seen it. But basically, it was in the back of a video. They did exactly the same thing at exactly the same time the previous year with the Polaris. Then the Polaris turned up at Invictus as the exterior. My hope is the exterior of the Perseus will be at Invictus. That is my hope. I'd probably put that a little bit off to Grim. Would you kind of assume that seems to be what they're doing, or do you think it's pie in the sky to see the exterior, Grim?
I would love for them to do that. The only reason I think they possibly won't is because I got the feeling from them with the Polaris and just how they've talked about it, that was really a big lift for them and they had to push extremely hard to get that exterior in the game by that time. So I don't know. I think they may, if they want to avoid that sort of crunch, they may try to not do that because they've already got a number of flight ready, drive ready vehicles coming. But however, with the Starlancer TAC, it's kind of yes, it's a new ship. It's kind of a known quantity. We've sort of seen it before in the Starlancer Max. So if CIG is looking for something that does kind of generate a buzz, I could see the exterior of the Perseus being the perfect ship. But no, with the Perseus going into gray box phase now, it's still got a pretty good ways ahead of it. Now, one thing they did mention, though, of course, was that it looked farther along than a typical ship would at that stage because they are heavily using the RSI assets. So,
and I've just had a quick look and I can't find it. One of the
and
joys of
that specifically, the fact that they were like, well, that it looks farther along at a ship in this phase typically could signal that maybe we do see the exterior. But I think it would be an exterior that would be only show floor and probably not like flying around with the fleet or something like that.
What I was implying was exactly like what the Polaris did. It just did the Polaris all over again, exactly the same.
Yeah. But didn't the Polaris fly around with the fleet when it was exterior only? Or am I wrong?
I think it might have done, actually. I think you're right. It probably did. Yeah. But at the very least, I would hope that it's just on the show floor for us to see. I'm actually
it was also one of the ISC episodes in the background in, I think, 2 weeks ago.
What was?
The Perseus.
So it's the one where the Star Kitten, like you walk up and there's the person in the Star Kitten armor and the Star Kitten pulse, and it kind of like pans up across the bike and then goes up and shows you the back of the helmet, and you could see it in the background. But again, Mr. Jared, you keep naming your episodes in a way that they are not searchable. So I cannot just type in Star Kitten Pulse or tagging your videos, so I can't just find it on the Star Citizen channel. This is the problem with naming videos after puns and not naming them after facts. So it makes it really hard to find stuff. But he's getting better at naming.
I meant something else. I think there was one flying in the sky.
Yeah, it was
just very. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's what.
Anyway, when I read the gray box thing, that my first impression was that was just a ruse to take us. That I think it's way further along, or it could be way further along, and they just said that so we don't to trick us. No.
I've wondered that before. I also think CIG, I could be wrong about this, I'm speculating, and I haven't heard this from a developer or something, but there's part of me too that almost feels like that with those updates, they don't want to get into a habit of like trying to trick us with them, and that they just want to keep the information in those updates legit, and if they don't want us to know, then they just won't talk about it like they're doing with the Ironclad. But I don't know. One thing I will also add too about the Perseus is, a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, the Perseus is a big ship. It's not going to be out till next year and stuff." Remember that the Starlancer attack is almost as big as the Perseus. I mean, the Starlancer attack's like 83 meters. The Perseus is only 100, and not all of that 100 is even usable space because it's got that really long nose on it.
Yeah.
The Perseus is actually like on the small side of that level of ships. You know what I mean? It's smaller than the Hammerhead.
Yeah.
It's so it and the Starlancer attack kind of sit in the same regime. Now I do think the Perseus carries a lot more buzz weight to it, of course, but I personally think it's looking really good for the Perseus at IAE. But also remember, it's not just IAE. We also have CitizenCon at the end of the year too. So there's or the digital CitizenCon thing. So there's sort of two sales events there they could attach it to.
Yeah. Oh boy, I cannot find it. I've been going through all their videos and I can't find it. Yeah. But
since we're on it, I would still think that the Ironclad is the better choice for that.
That was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was the Ironclad. I still think that like you were kind of alluding to, Grim, that we're probably going to get more ships than we're used to. And I am hoping that the big ship of this sale is the Ironclad. Obviously in the timeline that is totally possible. And I kind of think about it. If you don't sell the Ironclad here, because we know it's going to be ready, right? Then the only other big place to sell it is right next to the Perseus at AIE. Right?
Yep.
And if you had two big ships like that, again, looking at from a money perspective, you would want to separate them. Now, I don't see them just randomly releasing it in August or September or something like that. It just doesn't seem big enough for a ship of that caliber. And I think you two would agree with me on that. I think the only logical place is either AIE or here. And I think because of the Perseus, they're going to want to release it here.
Right.
Put that off to you boys, and you tell me your thoughts.
Wait, before we go completely into the next one, someone just posted the Perseus. It's the content-driven episode at 36 seconds.
Content-driven.
Where you can see the Polaris in the background.
I had that video open. I must. Ah, it is too. Yeah, I found it. Sweet. Right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Love you long time. Right. I'll just mute this real quick and click play. There it is right there. That's the Perseus right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it.
Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and I'd have to go back another year and look for a video that'd be even harder to find. But they have the Polaris in a similar background image at around about the same time the year before. So one of the things I've been noticing, and I think you guys would notice this as well, is they're starting to get into patterns where, you know, the starter ships are coming out at AIE every year. The medium ships coming out at CitizenCon every year. The really big ships coming out at AI. You see where I'm getting to, right? So we're starting in these patterns that they're just repeating over and over and over because they're found from a monetary value. That's what works best. So they're learning, and we're now able to read those patterns essentially.
Yeah.
Tech chat. Dragoness Gaming. Yes, I think we just did. Well, we did.
Well,
if that's what you're doing.
Going back to the Perseus, one thing I will say though is, if we do not, again, the CIG content has been different too. The video content this year has been very different. But if they stay with patterns from previous years, regardless of whether the Perseus is on the show floor or not, from an exterior perspective, they almost always do an all ships show for Invictus with John Crew, Ben Curtis, Mark Gibson, all those guys. And I would be shocked if they did not talk a little bit about the Perseus and the Idris and some of those other ships.
I actually suggested to them when I was talking to them, and I would bring it up again, I would actually like to see them to do different videos with community people. And I don't just mean pull me and Algrid in. I mean pull in a bunch of content creators that talk about ships and talk about it, but also different gameplay things. So for example, if they have a gameplay designer that's talking about something, you know, we could pull in Board Gamer and Morph and Space Tomato, you know, people that are kind of associated with what they're talking about. You know, you can bring,
that'd be cool,
you know, so and because the community has their finger on the pulse, a lot of the content creators knows what the community is, and it would just, you could get some of the questions me and Algrid got answered. We had been wanting to ask for like 13 plus years when we sat down with them. And we just turned out all this stuff that we'd speculated on. The amount of shit we'd speculated on that was correct was insane to us. It was like 90% of what we'd come to the conclusions on was real. And we were, that they even said to us, like, yeah, you got a lot right. And we were surprised how much you guys got right just from guesswork. So, but anyway, long story short, that's something else I'd like to see. I think we can wrap up the Perseus unless there's anything else you want to talk about. We kind of went into the Ironclad. Can we move past those now, or is there anything else you want to? I know you're a big fan of the Ironclad, Trist, and I know me and Grim both like. So if you want to talk about that a bit more, we can. Was there anything else you want to talk about, Grim? You went.
Well, the only thing I'll say about the Ironclad that I think it's impossible to talk about this without considering this one fact, or there's actually two parts of this. One, there is Drake Defense Con, which sometimes can get forgotten, but we know Drake is a very popular manufacturer, and you know, there's definitely been years CIG has not done anything for Defense Con, but it's always an opportunity for them to throw in something extra there at the end. So I think when we do get the schedules, or when we do get a little bit more of that show information leak out, we're going to know very quickly if Drake has something on offer. Now, the second part of that is the Ironclad has two variants. One is more cargo focused, and the other one is more combat cargo focused, combat transport focused. So would one of those be more applicable to Defense Con? But is that one that's the assault variant? You know, it's got the repair function. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
If it's coming, it's just the Ironclad. Because the other thing is, you could literally do Ironclad here and Ironclad Assault at AIE. You could literally split them.
You could,
which kind of makes sense too, because then you kind of get. Well, look at it like the Starlance attack, right?
Yeah.
Now we know what the Starlancer is. We already know what we're kind of expecting, but then it's like known but new, and so it kind of has this. It kind of has like half hype. I don't know how else to explain that, but you know what I mean? Like it's like a bit of knowing, so it kind of just lingers a little bit, and I think that's why they're testing it that way. And if the TAC release goes, well, go ahead.
One thing I'll say too is, you know what? One of the things that leaks out a lot early on are the show floor maps to these events. If the Drake DefenseCon map has changed slightly from previous years, because it hasn't changed in like forever, if it's gotten bigger, then we know possibly a bigger ship's coming from them sooner, because I don't think you could squeeze the Ironclad in there now and still have all the other Drake ships on display. I think you'd need a bigger defense hall or a bigger convention hall for the DefenseCon to hold that ship. That's a pretty big ship. It's 124, 26 meters long, and it's wide. So if we get some show floor maps that leak out a few weeks early and we see like a very different setup for Drake than we have in years past, that could be a big clue the Ironclad's coming.
So obviously this has been taken from the files as well. So May 15th to 27th. So we've only got 20 days roughly.
20 days.
Yeah. So it, we also know from ISC this week that basically they're going to do a behind the scenes of a ship that's coming. So it sounds like we're going to have like 3 weeks of them talking about shit that's coming, or words to that effect.
And I don't know if they'll, you know, their behind the ships so far have been very short, a little too short in my opinion, and they've been single ship focused. Now this is one going into a sales event, so maybe it'll be multi-ship focused and longer. However, if it's like the other ones,
they're gonna spread that out and they're gonna milk it for all it's whatever you want. Of course they're gonna
here's
spread
what I'm
it out.
saying. If it is a single ship focus type episode, I'm thinking it will be the Guardian. They'll start wanting to highlight that.
It'll probably be one of the ships they've already previewed too, and that was previewed first.
So I could see it being the Guardian.
I'm more likely to think that the Guardian would be the one that they release for the patch ship. Because it's kind of already out there. There's 2 variants already out there, and the TAC is a variant as well, but the TAC is so much physically larger. Kind of scary when you look at a Starlancer Max and realizes it costs the same as a Guardian. Anyway,
I think the Guardian and the TAC, the Ironclad and the TAC, aren't they a bit the same, like price point wise, size wise?
No, well, I think the TAC is like $290. I have to go look it up again.
Ironclad's about 40 meters longer.
The Ironclad's $450, so there's almost a $200.
No, but I mean, you earlier talked about you have one bigger ship, one medium ship, one small.
Yeah.
These would be 2 pretty big ones at the same event.
Well, I know this really. Hang on, there's this really cool website. Hang on, let's go to it. We'll have a look at it. I don't know who makes it, but it's a really good website. We'll just go here. And we'll Ironclad. I don't know. I got lots of complaints about this website, but I'll have to find a guy and meet him.
I mean, we don't even have to really look at the sizes. I'm just thinking if they have the tag and we agreed on that, this would completely take the show off that.
Actually, you actually have the tag in here. Hang on.
I think the Ironclad is. This is my whole thing. That's to me. I look at it as an industrial ship. It's a cargo ship. Now, because it's Drake, and when CIG revealed it in that Ironclad is Rad ISC that they did, they heavily talked about it being like the pirate combat or the pirate cargo ship. So obviously there's some combat connotations attached to it, but I do look at them as pretty fundamentally different. You are right though, Tristan, that they are both large ships that cost a lot of money, and that again, I still feel like CIG is prepared to surprise us this year.
It's not really
with how they do things.
So it's not really the size of ships; it's generally price points. So this being 200 to 300, 250 to 300. I can't remember the exact price. I know it. Starlancer Max is 250. It's like $30-40 more expensive. I just can't remember the exact price top of my head, because I don't give a shit about the Starlancer. Like, I just checked out on that thing because it's just so bad. It's not funny. The Ironclad, I know that's 450, right? So it's almost like $200 more to essentially get to it. So if you kind of line these up, and what's the other one? We've got the Grey Cat buggy thing. What's that going to be? $60-$70 somewhere in there. You'd have to assume.
Yeah, probably.
And then we've got the Guardian MX, which is also roughly the same price as this, which is why I think they're the two that will be separated, right?
Right.
And then the Anvil Guardian, which will probably be about $330 to $375.
Or the Anvil Asgard.
Yeah. Oh, Asgard. Sorry, what did I say? What did I say?
Guardian.
Anvil Guardian. Anvil Guardian. Let's go. New ship. But yeah, Anvil Asgard. So, what is it? You got a Valkyrie at $375. That is way overpriced. Everyone says it's overpriced. You've now got
overpriced.
You've got the Paladin at $330. It's in that ballpark. So you can see you've now got 3 different price points. You've got roughly $250 to $300. 350-ish and then 450-ish. Like you can kind of see that. Not only that, the Ironclad will also go up in price when it comes out by 10 to 20%. So you're looking at a $500 to $550 ship.
Yeah. Now, exactly. And one thing we can't forget here, and this is different than the previous years, and you're the first one I heard of, Execute, to bring this up, and I have now bought into this. At first I didn't, but now I think the proof's in the pudding. If they're trying to release a ship every month, essentially, then there's a lot more opportunities to spread these ships out too if we need to.
Well, let me actually give you the credence. You like when you I actually went back and checked this, right? We're already almost at 1 year, and I just want to point this out. They've done one ship a month since August. It's already so they've only got a couple of months to go, and they're already at that 1 year credence. And so I thought it was just like the start of the year, but it's actually not. I actually checked it. It goes back further.
And I partially, when you look at those funding charts for Star Citizen, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but the first thing I do is I just look and go, okay, where's IAE? All right, where's Citizen Gun? And where's Invictus? I look at those 3 parts and I kind of use that as the measuring tool. If CIG's smart, which they definitely are when it comes to this stuff, they've got to be looking at the other places of that calendar and thinking, where can we also monetize July? Where can we monetize, March or whatever?
Well, I said simply to them, you basically need to do a sale every 3 months. You're doing that sale every 6 months. Like, that Workers' Week?
Sure.
But I think they've gone beyond that. If they're just giving a ship away every month, why do it every 3 months when you can just do it every month?
Sure. But because it's very possible, and we don't know this yet, but it's very possible that in July they're going to have a big in-game content-driven patch that is all about cargo hauling and a risky cargo hauling, and then boom, that's the perfect patch for the Ironclad. You know what I mean? And they were planning for that. We just don't know yet, and I think that's what on these speculative, what's been so fun speculating over the last few months is. It does feel a little bit like new ground for CIG in terms of how they're putting stuff out. I'm going to be really interested to see for Invictus, for example, how many ships come out because we've talked about all these ships, but we also haven't talked about possibly new concept reveals.
We're getting into that. Don't you worry, bro. We're going there.
Yeah.
I'm just turning off. I'm just turning off for 2 seconds because I want to point this out while we're on here. Is this here? Wait, I'm on the wrong screen. I got to go back to this thing. But this here, you can see, no, it's still not giving me, it is giving me the mouse pointer now. Wait. So this here is the RSI Perseus concept sale. It almost meets the next year all of the RSI day on its own.
Yeah.
That's how big, so that's how they know how popular this ship is, because it's sold like a crazy mofo.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's crazy because it's not an inexpensive ship. It is a very expensive ship.
Actually, I'll continue back on because it's been a way to move it up. Sorry. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That's how they know how much we want the Perseus, because we bought a lot of them. But yeah, you can also see here with what Grim's saying, like we are massively on track to this be the best funding year. Well, look how far forward the green is.
Oh yeah.
Over the greens of the previous year.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is why I say CIG is not stupid when it comes to marketing. You can agree or disagree on their marketing tactics on whether you think they're good or bad, but no one can argue this company knows how to generate income and hype stuff up. I mean, they're masters at it. And the fact that we're year over year now for the last number of years doing better and better and better and better, it's crazy. We also know the ship team. Again, I learned this from you, Execute. The ship team has grown enormously, more than even I thought. And again, it just sort of feels like uncharted territory because like I don't totally know. Like for example, I go to back to the last CitizenCon video for that Captains of Industry panel that John Crew and Ben Curtis did, and when they showed that silhouette video at the end there and showed the ships that are going into production in the next 12 months, I was pretty shocked. I mean, first off, if you would have told me earlier last year that the Pioneer would be going in production, I would have been like, there's no way. That's going to be a post 1.0 ship for sure. But you know what I mean? It's so I feel like CIG is all kinds of unpredictable right now, to me at least. And you know, it's cool being surprised, honestly.
So in Twitch chat, Sandgroper just turned up. Sandgroper, you won a golem. You won the golem from last week. But Starjump Grim just told me you also won a ship on his channel. Dirty bastard. So if you want to give it away to someone else, let me know, or I'll get it sent off to you later.
He didn't win a ship though. He won a ship livery. So he's only won one ship. He's only won one ship.
Make Sandgroper into a ship. Is it like a desert themed skin? Or
he has to pick the ship. Maybe he'll pick the Perseus. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever. Sandgroper, I'll get the golem off to you later. It's got the skin on it. Whatever it is, it's the concierge one. Or whatever they gave me to give away, I can pull it up later and show you anyway. So yeah, I'll get that off to you, no problems. Right. So that's the tracker done. I'm trying to think of the other ships we're going to go into. Is there anything you guys want to focus on? Speculation was.
I have 3 additional ships that I think are at least interesting. And I'm not saying they're coming to backers or anything. I just think they've been sort of in the discussion lately. One is the Idris. The other is the Anvil Paladin, which we've kind of talked a little bit about already, and we've gotten an update from CIG on that. But then the other one is, I know it's y'all's favorite because I've convinced you this is what it is, but it's that Drake Heavy Fighter. It could be coming on DefenseCon Day. I'm just
So let's talk about the Idris first, because there's actually an interesting thing happened in the P2 last night and in live. People that have a Kraken had the Polaris removed as a loaner.
Oh, interesting, because I do have a Kraken. I should check. That was in the PTU?
Yeah, apparently on live or the PTU, if you had a Polaris loaner, you no longer have the Polaris as a loaner. So someone was moving something in the background, redoing the loaners. And so when you think of that, either the Ironclad would be the loaner or the Idris. So I don't want to say it's the Idris, but like, again, something's moving in the background. So something's that's happening.
It's hard to ignore the Idris stuff lately, though.
So so what was the other two? The 2 images in the blue silhouette. What was the other one that you talked about? The Paladin. Let's do the Paladin first.
The Paladin. Yep.
So I've got some images.
Oh, and another one that has been talked about some by people was the Apollo. But again, we got an update on the Apollo recently. It only just passed its white box review, so it's got a ways to go.
Paladin's not coming until the base building drones are in, because you need the same style of drone to do the medical thing. If you think about the Apollo, I get my ships mixed up. Is if the drone is going from the ship to stand over there and just do an objective and then come back, that is almost exactly the same as drone goes over, does the objective of picking the person up and comes straight back. It's a straight there and back. It's an A to B drone essentially.
Let me ask you then. This is for both of you. What do you think the first drone capable ship we'll get in game is? Do you think it's going to be something we don't know of yet, or a base building ship, or is it going to be?
It's the build.
You think it's going to be the build?
Actually, I think that will be the CNOU Frontier.
What? Oh, the Frontier. Oh, the one. That's what we called.
They do need to make that a ship. They do need to make that a ship.
You called it the Frontier. We called it. Our code name for it was the Nimbus. Because I actually asked a bunch of AIs. I said, based on these 3 ships, and I put in the Mustang, the Pioneer, and I had images of all of them, and the Nomad, and this is what they're called. What would you call this ship? And the best name they came up with was Nimbus. But I do like Frontier. I think Frontier is better, actually, to be honest with you. All right, but we are going to talk about that one. We're just going to talk about this one first, because I've already got the image up. So Paladin, what did you want to talk about this specifically, Grim?
It's just been one of those ships that we did hear was in production. Active production. We did get an update on this. I think this was not that I don't. The Paladin, the big thing with that is I think it was a ship CIG is actively trying to get out the door. Now, it's not to say it's coming at Invictus, but the reason I think they're actively trying to get it out the door is because I think they do want to course correct the Redeemer. We already know the Redeemer got some changes, so they want to kind of get that shifted over here and get this new thing shifted in, and both of them play so well into the current content-driven stuff CIG's doing, which is a lot of ground combat and a lot, So that's just my thinking.
But people CIG have literally told me words to that effect. They said things get rid of that annoying dropship, blah blah blah, or gunship, and actually have a real gunship. Like they've said things like that. So I 100% agree with your statement there. Trist, do you kind of agree with that one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Sorry, that's all I have to say.
Nope, that's okay. You don't have to talk about things if you don't want to.
And I will say real quick, Agent 1213 in Twitch asked a question, does Grim like the Ironclad? Just so everyone knows, I am a massive Drake fanboy. Yeah. So the Ironclad is currently my most anticipated ship. Like, put the Kraken aside because I will have to come. Currently, my most anticipated ship is the base Ironclad. I want it. I need it. It'll fill a hole in my soul. It needs to happen.
Right, so
actually, I have one question about the Paladin.
Yeah, go for it.
When that came out, on the day I built that too, I built the interior of that, and then I never managed to do a video of it because I thought there was not enough interest in it, and I myself was not as interested. Is this a ship people are interested in? I never got the feel for it.
I think certain people are. I think certain military people are. I am very interested in it. But I like gunships. I own all of them. I'm a bit obsessed. There are some interesting things in this ship. Like one of the things I've talked about is what the hell this thing is on the second floor. They never ever talk about it. Hang on, I'm just having a bit of trouble.
What was the explanation, bro?
To me, it looks like the magazine.
Yeah, it looks like some
that's what
kind
I
of
hoped, like where you have to put in new magazine boxes. That would be super fun gameplay, but I don't think that is what it is.
I hope, but the other thing is, how do you load those in over a staircase? That was my question.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's probably just somewhere where you see the missiles firing off or something like that. That would have been so
storage.
Cool. Yeah. I know
I think this is a really cool ship. It falls into that Redeemer it falls in the Redeemer category of I think it's really cool. I have no use for it. But I say that in that I do think this is going to be a popular ship. I think it's going to sell really well, and I do because I do think there's a large contingent of people out. Well, I guess I would say whatever. Let's put aside the Asgard because that could be the thing that scratches everybody's back. What I think is. Because I am one of these people, I really have always loved the look of the Valkyrie. As a matter of fact, the Valkyrie has spoken to me since I first got into this game because the Valkyrie CIG revealed the same time they'd revealed the Kraken. It was at the 2018 CitizenCon panel. They revealed the Valkyrie and the Kraken. And the Valkyrie and the Kraken both were ships. I was like, I need to own both of those. However, with the Valkyrie, that dropship role just never appealed to me. So I think a ship that borrows that DNA, whether it's the Asgard or Paladin, that is not a dropship, is going to sell like hotcakes.
Well, the reason, like, there are some lines of codes that are pointing to Titan suits coming. So if we're going to talk about the Asgard a bit more, then we need to talk about Titan suits, right? I honestly think that it's one of two things because it says in the audio recordings that the Asgard is a heavy transport of sorts, right? And it says it brings the heavy hitters to the front line. It does not really specify how big it is itself. Exactly. Why I think it's either like it carries ballistas and Nova tanks or it carries Titan suits, right? And the next part I want to get into, just give me a second. I did send this to someone. I'm just going to fucking find it. I think it might have been you, Grim, that I sent it to. Hang on. Nope. Who was it? Oh, who was that? Someone joined the channel?
Nope, it's just us.
I just heard a weird noise. It's all right. I don't know. Someone's got background noise. It's fine. Was this at in link? It's this that appeared in game.
Yep.
And I think once you kind of realize that is clearly a troll, again, it is an Atlas, but an Atlas with guns is not what Argo does. Argo are not military.
Can I add on to that a little bit? Oh, did you get raided?
Yeah, we did.
Raided.
We got raided by Expat. How you doing, Expat? You can jump in and join us if you're on Expat. Open invitation as usual. You can jump in and do some speculation if you want. If you want to nick off, that's cool too. Nice to see you though.
One thing I would add about this particular thing is I know on is either your stream, Execute, or someone's stream, they talked about how, well, this is suspect because the texture work is pretty crappy on it. It wasn't like UV mapped properly and stuff, which is very possible. I didn't actually see it in game. But one thing I will say is that VMXEO did pull the model from the game files because it is in there. And I will say, and I'm not saying this means anything, but I will say the actual model, the mesh works pretty good on it. Like it wasn't something someone slapped together just for April Fool's Day thing. The model had some really nice detail work in it. Again, it's not saying it's coming. So it could totally be fake, but the mesh itself looked great. It didn't have a texture on it. That was just great.
To me, it looked like they took model pieces from something good and put it on the Atlas.
Yeah. So it's kit bash.
So I was thinking this is maybe parts from a different manufacturer's Titan suit that they just put on the Titan suit we have.
It's a kit bash or a prototype that they basically bashed together to test out before they built the next one. That's what I think this is. And I think they also teased it. I also think what this is actually meant to be is Wicklow is not really in-game anywhere. Like they talk about making this NPC person, but he doesn't appear anywhere. This is where he's going to be. Like you can see the light.
Did you hear them talk about that yesterday on the?
No, I did not.
Did you watch the narrative? They actually talked about that, and they did say. I thought you'd find this interesting, both of you probably. They did say that because there was some speculation about like, oh, well, maybe Banu are coming and we'll see him again. They said that like there is no rigging work done, no character like full body Banu stuff has been modeled yet.
It's
that
just
the
his
mesh
head.
that we. Just his head, essentially, and it was literally created for Wicklow. Like, it's not something they've had in the background. They don't have full Banu care. They went ahead and addressed that, which I was interested in because I was curious. Like, oh, maybe they do have some more Banu work going on.
We know that they made the hologram that's out in the hangar. We also know there's a flare that's the Wicklow's head that appears as a sub flare.
Yeah.
The light that comes down on this thing. See how it's that white light that comes onto it? I think that light is a hologram light. I think what'll be here is a hologram of Wicklow's head that you can sit. There is a seat that you can literally sit on. Why would it be a seat to sit and look at this thing? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's a sit to sit down and talk to Wicklow while you're getting quests off him or whatever. That's what I think this will end up being. I think this is just a total red herring shit stir because they know we'd lose our shit when we saw it. And it also dropped 2 days before April Fools.
Yes, agreed.
Anyway,
that said, we still agree that it is coming, though, just a touch different.
I don't want to go too much into it because I've recorded an episode on this, but there is a line that I think, and I did talk about to you before the show, Grim, while we were waiting for Trist to come along. He was making his coffee. Is that there was I think I might have sent it to you, or did I send it to SA? I'll try and find it real quick and bring it up. It's just easier than show the evidence, so to speak. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Because me and SA did this episode on it. So here we go. I got it. Open link. So this is it here. It's a single line. So this is taken from Pipeline, where they go, new ship strangely removed from this patch, but appears in a previous patch. So the only reason they detected it at all was CIG removed it, aka to hide it, right? You read it and it clearly says Aegis thruster, not thrusters, thruster, and then it says Hermes Aegis Hermes Fixed Thruster. Now you run that back. One of the things that SA brings up in the episode that I did not even think of until he brought it up, there is no naming convention, naming clutcher or whatever they call that word, by Aegis that uses people's names. They're all things like Hammerhead, stuff like that. You go through all the terms they use. They don't use any of the, other than their own name, which is Aegis's, which is a discus, type of thing, a weapon. There is no kind of Greek names. They just don't use it. They kind of use animals.
Is Vulcan a name, or is that a weapon?
have to look it up.
That's an industrial ship, not a combat one.
But they tend to, for the combat ships, they use things like bear claw, hammerhead. So they use animal names.
Yeah, reclaimer industrial.
Yeah,
that's industrial though.
That's a different naming culture because they're industrial.
Yeah,
but he's right. Vulcan is also a god.
I don't know actually. I actually don't know what Vulcan is. The point I'm trying to get to,
it's the god of forging stuff and forging weapons, I think.
From where? What mythology?
Roman.
Oh, it is. Okay. I thought that was Hephaestus though. And he's one of the other Titans anyway. Anyway, okay, well maybe that's not true then, but yeah, basically Hermes is a naming culture they haven't used under Aegis, was what I was going to say, and he also happens to be one of the Roman gods like Zeus or whatever like that. So I think he is possibly the next Titan suit. He is the messenger of the gods, and it would be a lot.
Greek, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Greek god. Not what did I say? Roman. Yeah, Greek god. My bad. Sorry. And basically, I think that he's like a light scout. And if you actually kind of think about how you were going to sell the Titan suits, you'd almost want to go light, medium, and heavy. You'd almost want to sell it in that order to try and increase sales.
It would also make sense that it's tagged fixed thruster because a lot of thrusters on ships are actually maneuverable and have some actuation to them. Fixed thruster, to me, I do think of like the thrusters that are embedded in the legs of the Atlas suits, so that would kind of make sense.
I think it's a singular.
Not that there's not ships. Yeah, not that there's not ships that have fixed thrusters, but it feels like it's a.
But it says thruster, not thrusters. Right? That's the thing. So I think it's a singular large thruster on the back. And it either makes him, or both, run really fast or jump.
Yeah.
It
could be multiple.
If you've ever seen videos or images of him, he's essentially like, he almost looks like Namor from the MCU. He's got little wings on his feet and he runs really, really fast. And that's why he's their messenger, right?
Well, then you know what that means.
What?
That means it's the Atlas racing variant.
Well, he could.
I just want to see these things running across.
Yeah, so I just looked this up because I didn't know. So it says Vulcan was the Roman god of fire, especially fire in destruction, form of volcanoes, as well as being the god of metalworking and the forge. So that makes a lot of sense.
I guess forge makes sense with the repair ship, but there's a lot of there. I think we can all agree because Execute, you've pointed out many times. Sometimes CIG follows rules with their naming, and sometimes they completely fall apart.
Yeah. So, I don't know, but anyway, so look forward to that episode coming out next week. I had a lot of fun on doing that episode. One of the things I did leave it as a pinned comment because we straight after we finished recording the show, we kept talking, and a really awesome idea came out that just popped out between me. I can't even remember who came up with it. It was pretty much mutual at the same time. You know how you've got the mining drones, the mining ticks, the spider. Shrink it right down. Cygnus mining tick. Shrink it right down and turn it into a spider mining Titan suit.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
I would buy that in a heartbeat. So I know it's not.
A lot of people would.
I know it's not walking on legs, but we started because he had this idea about a centaur Titan suit, and at first I thought that's ridiculous, but it actually makes a lot of sense because if it's like a trailer for a Titan suit, you can have like a mortar on it. You start to see where it goes pretty quickly. Yeah. And I actually had to sit there and kind of think how they could pull it off, and they could because you could actually essentially duplicate just the legs and have the animation rig hidden. So essentially, when you're spawning it, it's essentially spawning two suits that are permanently fixed, connected to each other, but you're just not seeing. You know how bipeds work, right?
Yeah,
you almost know better than me. So essentially, you're just not showing the top part of it. You're only using the bottom part of the animation rig, and it's just synchronized. It actually would work.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you could actually do that. And I just started thinking of all I started going back to Montoro from Mortal Kombat. Yeah. You know the if you've seen Montoro's, is it Montoro the one?
Hey, give me 1 second, Execute. I'll be right back. 30 seconds.
Yeah, this dude. He was like this centaur with like it was like a centaur cyborg. It's just like, wow. If you could turn that into a mechanical Titan suit, that would be amazing. Can you imagine the combat where you're actually melee fighting people? We went through all this stuff about melee Titan suits. We went into like tactical reconnaissance suits. We go through a whole bunch of Titan suits in that episode that we just theorize, and we really put it out in the community to do the same. It was a really, really enjoyable episode. I had a massive, awesome time. And the other thing I'll add to it is we, if you, the person that gives us the best Titan suit idea, you win an Atlas Geo. I went out and brought an Atlas Geo for SA to give away to the person who thinks is the best on that one. So yeah.
One issue I see with that is everything with 4 legs.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds again like something that could be a lot of physics problems. Like you would get stuck so much, right?
Yeah. Well, again, with the way the legs work, though, they actually have technology in this game that tilters based on the terrain. They've already worked that out. It was actually in previous Citizen Cons. So again, if you have the legs and you're essentially, I have to really go into a lot of detail. I'll talk to you about it after the show, but it is possible to essentially duplicate the Titan suit and have it standing a certain position behind the other one, and then they're locked at the essentially the hips, so to speak, and so it's a fixed position, and they just follow each other, and it's the animations are synced, but the opposite. So you actually could do 4 legs. I didn't know if it would work initially, but when I worked it through, it is possible. It sounds like such a stupid idea, but man, it would look cool if you could pull that off. And I don't know, maybe at CIG someone thought about it. Maybe they have not at all. Maybe they're just keeping them as suits. We'll have to kind of wait and see. Wow, you have ears. I didn't know you had ears.
Back. Ears and all.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah, so I showed this really quickly just as you were leaving, but that's Montoro from Mortal Kombat, and that's what I started to think of, like a centaur that could do melee and all that type of thing as well. So, but we go through a whole bunch in that episode. I don't want to spoil it because I had a lot of good time doing it. It was a really fun episode.
Look, on the subject of Atlas suits, the sky's really the limit for CIG, and they've sort of established something with the mining variant, right? The Geo. Yeah. That almost to me semi-guarantees we're going to get a salvage variant, and a salvage variant inadvertently means you're getting a repair variant, right?
I'll give him. So I'm just going to give you a sneak peek. This is the thumbnail for it, so I think that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that is cool. what I was kind of. So I used Grok to generate a lot of images to kind of think about what we're talking about, but this is kind of what I thought Hermes could possibly be. As one of them, and I've got a few others that I show off in the episode.
Well, we've seen things. For example, one thing that's come up even recently in regards to the Golem, and it's actually leaked out a few times in some of the code strings, are these ground refueling ports.
Yep.
CIG hasn't really talked about us moving hoses to refuel, to my knowledge, so I could easily see an Atlas refueler. I mean, the sky's the limit with them. So the combat one, being the low-hanging fruit, in my opinion, is probably going to come. With Atlas suits, we need a proper way to transport them. Now, I do think ships like the Ironclad are really like one of the perfect types of Atlas transporters, but we probably need smaller ones as well. So you can kind of take your lead from there and start.
We know the suits need refueling though. Right, they don't run as long as they're smaller and stuff like that. So so a transporter that transports them, when you announce them, it's still like absolute gangbusters. And then and because you have the transporter, every time they bring out a new Titan suit, I'll get that so it can fit on my.
I mean, I'll bring up another one. I'll bring up another variant of the of the Atlas suits that I hope is coming. Is why not like a Titan suit that is really built around EVA? You know what I mean? Like a full-on, like not just and not just and bring that image up, but also just literally think of like even a combat Atlas, right? So you have your ground combat Atlas suit, but imagine your EVA in space Atlas combat suit, or your EVA Atlas mining thing or whatever. Who knows? I mean, really, all I'm saying is the sky's the limit on that stuff. They got a lot of ground they can cover with that. Perfect onboarding task for new artists, especially juniors. Who knows what we'll see?
I can't remember who I sent it to this week because you imagine I get bombarded by heaps of images, but I do. Someone here I sent it to recently.
Oh, I know you sent it to me. I can look.
Did I? All right, I'll scroll up. Then.
Yeah,
down.
For sure. Yeah, it's
there it is.
You don't have to scroll up very far.
I've got it. Yeah. Yep. No, I was already up high for you. I had to come back down. So this is in Astro Armada. This has been in the game when the Atlas dropped last year. It had been in the game for over 5 years. You look at that thing and try and tell me it's not the Atlas. Also, take on the fact we do talk about this in the episode as well. it looks like you can take the back, like, because you can grab it with the tractor beam, but you can't pull it off the backpack. So I think eventually what will happen with the Atlases will be a completely modular suit where you can just put different backpacks on and different arms on to essentially turn it into what you want it to be. Clearly, this is a salvage variant, and clearly there's a way to change the cab on it as well, so it becomes fully enclosed. Or realistically, do you need to enclose it? No, you don't. You just wear a bloody helmet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all you do is change the backpack to do EVA, you're done.
Yeah. Again, there's just a lot of. I saw someone in chat say, socially confused, a boarding suit. Well, in my opinion, when I think of shipboarding, I almost would prefer to be in more of an Atlas EVA suit that like has a high thrust ratio that you can just flies really fast, but and then has like maybe some sort of tractor beam that allows it to grapple onto a ship and pull itself in. I mean, again, the sky's the limit on that type of stuff.
I am visualizing physically playing in a space battle in a Titan suit, like, you know, episode 3, Star Wars episode 3, where they're flying through the thing and you're like running down the edges of ships and shit, almost like in the Matrix style. And then, you're like, oh,
sure.
man,
I'm
that'd
just
be mad.
Aren't you repairing the stuff on the outside of the ship? Like, imagine us running outside the Idris and repairing hull damage in real time while
the ship's
shooting
getting pulled
everywhere.
apart.
This would be amazing.
You're essentially playing as R2-D2 in episode 1.
Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me if CIG gave us an Atlas, for example, that was still ground based but could fly. Maybe it didn't carry much else, but it could just straight up fly through the air and get you. I mean, you know,
again with that backpack thing, I think there's no reason you can't take the backpack off the Geo, put it on the Atlas, and all of a sudden it's an Atlas that can just jump along the surface. I think it's going to be highly modular. I think the whole thing is modular. And the reason I go back to this, right, and I've talked about this a few times, why did they stop selling the BKUs? Because they can make more money by not selling them.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
So those of you that don't know, the Bucks were essentially versions that changed the Vanguards from the Warden to the Sentinel to the Harbinger. And they sold them as kits that you could get, so you could kind of essentially mix and match, but they're only like $10 or $20, right? I think the most expensive one was $30. But why do that when if I have a Sentinel and I want the Harbinger, instead of just charging me $30, they can kind of encourage me to buy the whole ship again. That's why they did it.
Yeah.
Make more money.
Yeah. Battlefield upgrade kits, I think they were called, or
Same thing. If I bought the Atlas for $40. And then when they brought out the Geo, they didn't just give it a $5 upgrade, did they? They made you buy the whole thing again. Same thing.
Yeah.
They can sell you multiple Atlases, and then later on you realize they're all interchangeable, but it's too late. So, I think that's what's going to happen. Because you can clearly get in game. I do show it in the episode. I actually go over it in the Titan Suit episode, so I won't go over it over here because if you watch this and watch that, it's a double up. But I do show how you can essentially see how you can take the backpack off and change the arms, and we go over all this as well.
Not to take us off.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Tris.
Before we leave the suits, I'm a bit sad now that they do the base building with drones, and it's not something we do actively. That would be fun with us, like base building suits.
It's funny you mentioned that. That's all I'm going to say. We actually go through all that. We actually, one of the things we do is we actually just go through all the names of the Titans and all the names of the Greek gods, and you can totally see like so many of them would work as suits. One of them was ridiculous that I didn't think would bear any fruit. There's a guy called I can't remember his name, but he's like the god of wine and luxury and all this type of shit. And then I went, oh, actually that would work as a suit, a VIP bodyguard suit. You put it on and you can walk it because you're really rich. You can afford to buy a Titan suit just for yourself, and it protects you from bullets and all that shit.
Well, if you on one of my original streams when the Atlas first came out, I had said, what if there was a variant that was literally driven and controlled by AI that attaches to you? So essentially, like you could move it around like you would a drone. It behaves like a drone. So let's say you're Storm and Hathor, but you have 3 Atlases following you.
Dionysus, well, I cannot pronounce it. Harrison Jones said it. That's the guy. I can't pronounce it at all. Dionysus or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, you could all I
That's,
did
Roman one.
Yeah, all I did for the episode was type in Greek gods list and Titans list. That's all I typed in, and then it gives you all the names.
One is Bacchus.
Yeah.
What if
Again.
that means it's an atlas that the back opens up and it's just full of burritos and other sustenance?
Like a Domino's pizza delivery guy. Yeah. He just jetpacks along.
Obviously, we have gone full tangent now.
If we are with the silly ones, the most anticipated features for me in Star Citizen before I got fully into the game and I only read the feature tracker was the coffee vendor that was on the roadmap for like months, and I was waiting for that coffee vendor, and then it wasn't working.
Well,
he's in.
Well,
he's in at Area 18. You can go in and talk to him.
Yeah, but no, he's not working
But you know
anymore. You
what?
can't order stuff anymore. He's just standing there. That
happens with everything in the game.
For a few days, and only if you're lucky.
Yeah,
and now I want a Titan suit that brings me coffee at Invictus or something.
Happens with a lot of things. They add it, and then a couple of patches later, it just breaks. But they've noted all the things they have to fix to get it to work. They just don't do it right then because they've got other shit to do. It happens with everything. Like the Starfarer refueling sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Is another example. So
yeah. But moving off of Atlas. Because we started to talk about it, and I don't think we totally finished the discussion. But
Silhouettes was the next one on my list.
Well, I was going to go back to the Idris discussion real quick.
Okay,
I did a poll last night on my stream on both YouTube and Twitch. I did a poll on like, with all the Idris information that's come out, do we think it's coming to the game? And it was overwhelmingly no, which I'm not saying is wrong. It very well could be that, but yeah, it was overwhelmingly no. And I was kind of curious what you two thought with all the information that's come out.
So this is a Fleet Week skin for the Idris.
Yep.
Now that doesn't mean it's coming for players, but it's definitely going to be there flying around. There's also code in the game that talks about a tour. So I think how you'll be able to go around, and there's also code that links to the Morrow tour. So maybe Morrow was the person actually giving the tour at Invictus.
I would also assume it's for the event.
Yes.
For the pirate. What is it?
Yeah.
Pirate Polaris.
I would talking about the ambush mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I would write that, and the Polaris would be attacking the Stanton system while the IE is up, I would have an Idris there for show purpose, and then you just call that in because they have it there already, and then they take their cool IE-themed Idris and put into the fight, and maybe let us join.
Real quick, the Glass Sword says for a $5 super chat says early on backers of the Geo was a separate entity. You can track the beam. Yep, that's what I was talking about. And also here's some coffee money, so not a far-fetched story. Yeah, no, I that's exactly what I was talking about. All right, so Idris, sorry, what were you saying, Chris? Or you'd finished?
Never mind.
Sorry.
No, I said I said it's perfect for the mission, for the Polaris pirate thing, and as a counter to that.
I mean, the big thing for me was not even the paint. It was actually the insurance claim timers assigned to the Idris.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that and the fact that all the code strings for the Idris P and the Idris K came in. For example, the Idris has only ever been referred to as the Idris in the game files, like just the Idris, or maybe it was Idris M. But they now have added entities for the Idris P, the Idris K. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's coming. We all know they're working on the Idris because they have to get it ready for the PU and squadron launches. That's clear. But I did find it shockingly odd that the insurance claim timer stuff came in for the Idris, and it's got a pretty long timer, by the way. I think it's like 2 hours or something like that.
The price is like an hour, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't know. That just was surprising to me. Personally, everything I've kind of tangentially heard, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's not ready yet. But again, it made me kind of perk my ears up a little bit when I saw more and more of this information come out about the Idris. So,
right. I'm just sending that to Sangroper. There's validation failed. What?
I will say this. I don't know if there's a huge benefit right now to CIG pushing the Idris out. I think people are fine waiting till 2026 for Squadron. We know it's coming. That would mean that, they've waited this long for the Idris. Why get it a little bit early? It's obviously a ship that needs a lot of polish work for the PU. There's already a lot of big ships in development, the Perseus, the Starlancer attack and stuff. So for me, there doesn't seem to be a big reason for them to release it. They're ahead in their funding goals already from last year, so it's not like they need all this extra income coming. But I don't know. I'm currently leaning about 80% no, it's not coming to backers, and 20%, well, maybe we could get surprised and they drop it to backers. But again, I'm about 80% no.
Yeah, that's why I say. So I'm just trying to get this gifted, and I'm getting attacked by a cat at the same time. What are you doing?
You're fine.
Little shit. Yeah, say hello. I'm gonna have to send it later, Sangropa. I'm having trouble with my password at the moment.
Ankasanu, hopefully I said that right, on YouTube said, I think they're trying to push the Idris out now because they want to launch the Javelin with Squadron. Well, that would be different than what they said, but here's what I will say to that.
Can I just real quick?
Yeah.
If you think about it, they wanted the game to come out at the end of last year, right? And they said that the Idris would be out shortly after that. Now, you do the math. Shortly after that is someone's been working on this for 18 months in an 18-month ship pipeline. It is now finished.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only thing with the Javelin, and this is, well, not that they'd have to launch the Javelin with this. I think that's not entirely a reason, but the Javelin still had a lot to figure out apparently in terms of its modularity. We know, again, I've gone over too many times to count now the exterior changes that happened to both ships, and those look pretty solid, including the addition of like PDC turrets and all that stuff. But we know the Javelin is supposed to have some modularity built into the 5 or 6 modular rooms it has. Who knows if that's coming anytime soon. They originally said that would come out post Squadron's release, but who knows. Again, I agree with what some people are saying in chat. The Idris has been like spoiled to death at this point, so personally I think they should release it to the people that have paid for it as soon as they can and not artificially hold it off. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
I feel like now everybody but the backers has toured the ship. So, at this point, I feel like you could release it. It's fine.
Yeah. Right. I think the other one I'll move on to then. I'll have to look at that later. Right now for some reason. Is the blue silhouette images. So I think we've only really got 2 to go over. We'll save the controversial one to last because I think there's one that we're all going to agree on pretty quickly, and that would be. Wait, can I even find it to open it? No, apparently I'm blind. This one. Yeah, here we go. Open with done. Right, this one. Wait, can everyone see that now? I think they can. Yes, they can. Right. So I think we've all kind of landed on the same page on this one, though, really. I think it's, when it comes to manufacturer, that is, I think we can pretty safely say that this is Consolidated Outland. For me, personally, I think this is the medium ship, much like what happened the years before, like the Spirit and the Zeus. I think we're getting this at CitizenCon. Role-wise, well, wild speculation time. The only thing I kind of think of when I think of a need for a Consolidated Outland ship, the fact that it goes really low to the ground, right, is really unusual. And I started to think of why would it need to go really low to the ground, and I started thinking of vehicles, and knowing that the Pioneer can craft vehicles and ships, there would be a need for Consolidated Outland to have a vehicle transporter. That's where my brain went with this. But man, it could be anything. It could be anything. But yeah, I'll put this off to you guys. What do you think this ship could be?
Well, first things first.
Chris,
I think it's tiny. I think it's much tinier than. I wouldn't even call it a medium. I don't even think this could fit an Ursa underneath. It's way smaller than you might think. That's my guess.
I've lined it up with some of the Crusader images that seem the Intrepid images. That does seem a little bit bigger than that.
A tiny bit bigger than the Intrepid, but that's a starter, right? So
the problem
say it's more big.
The problem is Consolidated Outland already has a starter and an advanced starter, and I think it looks bigger than both of those. I think it's definitely bigger than the Nomad, and I think it's definitely bigger than the Mustang. I think this is a medium ship. But But that's just me. But you tell me your thoughts. Why do you think it's smaller or whatever? Why do you think it's...
Well, I mean, first things first. In the bottom, you can see an SEU crate underneath, and that is 1.5 meters high. So this thing is not much higher than 3 meters. That's just tiny. So I'll go with dropping cargo instead.
Okay.
Instead of...
but you think it's like vehicles. A small, not a medium, is what you're saying?
Or maybe on the verge of it, like...
Okay.
Just...
Okay.
It's a small medium one.
Just for reference, Tristpwn has done a really good video on this where he's drawn it all up in full color and all that. It actually looks really cool with what he's done. Yeah, he's done really, really well. So yeah, if you go over to Tristpwn's channel and check that out, he's done a really good job on this. Grim, what's your...
Yeah, and I went with dropping cargo in the back because you can see the boxes underneath. I think they could be behind. I think they are underneath.
There would 100% be a need to bring cargo to the Pioneer. I could totally see that. I wouldn't even fight on it. And I'm going to be honest. I think this is going to have variance. I think it's an absolute foregone conclusion. Absolutely.
So I'm going to counter a little bit, but not completely. If this is a medium, which I agree it is a medium ship, but on like the small side of medium,
yes.
Or it's just a very big small ship. Either way, Consolidated Outland already has a cargo mover that side. It's called the Nomad. So for me,
technically that's a small, but yes.
Yeah. So and it's not to say that you can't have that overlap, and it's not to say that this doesn't carry cargo. But what I think this is, or what I hope this is I actually. So one thing we know about the Pioneer is that it's got 4 manufacturing machines in it, or 4 fabrication machines in it.
Yep.
I'm hoping this ship has like a single manufacturing machine in it, and you can load cargo into it and manufacture from the ship, like FPS weapons, furniture, small items, whatever you have the blueprints for. So essentially where the Polaris has 4 of them in there, this has 1 of them. That's what I hope it is.
So a small base builder is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, but it may not have the drones to build base, but it may have the fabrication stuff to build to manufacture the stuff you're putting in the base.
Real quick, first time chatter on Twitch, Xanathem says small salvager. I would shy away from that just because of the RSI salvager concept they showed off about a month ago. I think that they're not there yet.
Even though I'm with him, there is this thing beneath or next to the cockpit that both Grim and I'm not sure what that's supposed to be on whatever we think it is.
Yeah,
it looks more like a salvage thing than
I think
whatever.
I think you would agree, though, there is like almost a foregone conclusion there's going to be variants of this, because if you look at all the medium ships, there've been at least 3 of everything, right? Zeus, Spirit, Cutlass, Freelancer, blah, blah, blah. What I actually would be interesting to do that I haven't done is lay out the grid again, right, and see where the gaps are, right? Because being Consolidated Outland, let's look at what we've got. We've got base construction, we've got cargo, and we do have military stuff in there as well, right? So I would almost chuck this as in cargo, military, and base building could be in there as well. But I also think there is a need for a vehicle transporter. And the only 2 vehicle transporter that I can really is the Max, and all the others just do like Cyclones. So there is a need for another one like the Max, in my personal opinion.
Well, if you remember, what's one of the things they talked about during the base building demo when they showed that hover cart, the hover cart that's got the single drone in it? They specifically said they wanted that hover cart to be able to fit in a lot of ships. And could you imagine, if you look at this, imagine it had like a flatbed in the back that we can't see, and it's low to the ground. If you look at its belly, it sits really low to the ground. What if it sits really low to the ground like that? Because they want you to be able to easily pull that hover trolley out.
That's what I'm saying. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it could be low, like to drive a vehicle in, to put cargo into it, to put. I can totally see all those. I'm not disputing any of these. I think there's no. It's really difficult to guess the role just based on an image.
Yeah, and CIG hasn't told us this yet, but I have a slight speculation that hover trolley is going to be manufactured by Consolidated Outland.
It could also be a little bit like because you know how there's like a base variant on a lot of the ships. So to give an example, the Black, the C1, the Freelancer, and then the variants go into more niche roles, even sometimes the same. Like the Freelancer and the Freelancer Max are really butt each other's heads quite a bit, right? Do you mind, sir? Like, go away. You are just...
I would like to
You
add...
just, like, rolled
Grim,
onto the keyboard. Sorry.
Grim, what you just said to your counterpoint to mine, that was basically what I was not finished saying. I mean, I'm completely with you. I think it is a build... No, but I mean, you saw my video, so I think it is a base builder that can also carry its own base building materials on the bottom. I would just think that the drones come out of the back instead of it carrying the small cart, because that's the one point you have not mentioned yet. The Pioneer is such a great undertaking. I would assume they would try to test that, and that's why I assume this is just a tiny Pioneer. All of the Pioneer features in the tiniest package for selling it, for testing it.
It makes a lot of sense too, because base building is going to be such a fundamental thing in this game. It's almost like shop ships, right? You can tell that they're going to, because the different tech levels, they're going to have different things at different price points. Like, so if they've got a Pioneer and they've got like the MISC is a high level tech, Consolidated Outland's probably in the middle, like Argo, and then you'll probably get a low tech that's lower down, like Drake and Crusader.
Well, and the reason I keep going back to fabrication too is when I think of base building, we're not getting base building without a few other prerequisites, at least in my opinion. And tell me if you both would agree on this. Engineering, so resource management, because why? Because buildings are supposed to use resource management. We also are going to need blueprints because it's supposedly based off all on blueprints. What does blueprints mean? Main fabrication, which is going to be a core part of that. And think about all the FPS gear, armor, weapons, doodads, furniture they already have in the game. When I would not shock me if we actually get fabrication, like a tier 0 version of that or the initial launch of fabrication before base building. That would not shock me.
So I'm not just shooting your guys' idea with literally what you just said there. Maybe it's fabrication ship, not a base builder. Essentially take what's in the back of the Ironclad Assault and put it in this. So it repairs vehicles and it makes small components. It's essentially a 3D printer ship that just does the small shit. Yeah, I could see that.
If you remember, inside the Pioneer, when they did that walk around, it's got 4 big fabrication machines in it. Take one of those out and just throw it in a single ship.
This, now you mention it, this could be like a small garage. You land, drive a small ship in, or a cyclone or something like that, and it has a small fabricator that repairs it. It's a whole bunch of things this could be. You know what I'm saying? This is what speculation is about. You throw it out there, see what sticks. Half of it doesn't work, and then 6 months later, you come back when they released it, and it's like, oh, we did talk about that briefly.
What I also thought is when I saw their panel about the base, well, the first one, I thought they were completely crazy because that will take 5 years for them to make at least. And now with the latest one, I would still say it takes at least 2, maybe more. So I would also not exclude that they bring this out, something like this size that you can already build like just the living habitat they showed, just the base module, just so we can build something. Like
I just
basically an annoying tier 0 that we're not really happy with, but something.
I just sent you an image
longer than I expected.
You sent me an image?
That image I just sent Execute to me. It's one of these in a small ship. That's what I hope this is.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think it's one of those in a small ship. You would have to load some small cargo boxes to feed the fabrication machine because it's going to require resources. But we know these crafting machines are coming. I kept saying fabrication. Maybe CIG refers to it as a crafting machine. But I think one of these inside a ship that you can fly wherever you want. So you're building a base. Okay, you fly your little crafting Consolidated Outland ship over with one of these in the back, and boom, you can start making some things. You know, this is what the Pioneer is supposed to have 4 large crafting machines inside of it, in addition to the fabrication hangar. So.
To be honest, literally variants. You could actually literally have a base builder one, a fabricator one, a generalist base cargo variant. Like I could see all of these. I think the other thing is like if you look at the ships that we have, they all have at least 3 variants in that medium range. So I wouldn't rule any of those as distinct possibilities going down the line.
And if you look at these machines, they're just small form factor enough that you could get maybe the smaller medium one into that little ship. You know what I mean? And because that's something CIG hasn't really addressed. If fabrication's kind of coming along, or crafting is coming along with base building, and we do have some crafting now, but if crafting machines are kind of coming along with base building, then they've got to be thinking about crafting ships or a way to transport these damn machines, because all they showed us in that CitizenCon presentation was suddenly one appeared inside one of the buildings that they had just built, but they didn't say actually how they put it there. You know what I mean?
I've just realized we've probably already got the nomenclature too. So say they did call it the Frontier, like Trista's called it. You'd have Frontier Alpha, Beta, Delta. You going on with this because
sure,
we've got the nomenclature to go with it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. Right. Now we're going to go to the real controversial one where I've got one aim to finally convince Grim that this is not a fighter. This is my only aim. I think Trista's on board with me, but Trist, I'll let you take this first. Why do you think that this is not a fighter? I think you can speak for me on this one, Tris.
I'm on board with neither of you.
Okay, that's fine. I never said that, but I think you and I did agree that it's not a fighter. Not manufacturer.
I agree with you. It's not a fighter because wings as big as the whole ship. That's targets. That's just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I agree with Grim that to me it looks Drake. You said something else. I'm not going to take it away from you, but
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I looked at that. I don't see it. For me, it still looks like Drake.
Well,
even though
after you sent us this image, it actually reinforced it for me and Algrid that it's not Drake. Because what we did was, because these are 4K images and you can zoom even more now. No, you guys tell me. You guys are Drake people. That don't look like a Drake engine to us.
See, that back engine to me looks like the VTOL on the Corsair, the small VTOLs that sit under the primary engines.
Okay.
Yeah,
it looks almost exactly like it to me.
Okay.
But to me,
I'm speculating wildly. Like one Execute wants to say it could be both. To be fair.
Yeah. Now, to answer, let me respond to the wings thing. Respond to the wings thing.
Okay.
I totally get that. However, the only thing I would say is that, like, it was very obvious that the Corsair was built around it's a combat exploration ship because it's got more guns on it than it needs to have, and it's got massive wings. So it's almost like CIG was like, we don't care. I think personally, and I've said this before, I think this is an answer to people using the Corsair as a combat ship. Sort of like how the Paladin is the way they can course correct the Redeemer. I almost feel like this is a way they can course correct for the Corsair, because they've already nerfed the Corsair because of problems with its DPS. So I almost feel like they're saying, okay, well, you know what? We're going to give you a Corsair that does not have the big cargo bay and vehicle transport abilities and stuff. It's literally all the other parts of the Corsair, though, packed into a odd, ugly duckling type package. So, and again, I'm speculating, but that's where my head goes. And that cockpit canopy glass looks very Drake to me.
Well, we actually did some looking into this as well, and it could actually technically fall under freelance, like very freelancer-esque thing, because it's got two things on either side. So I actually can see it as both. We did try to determine a lot of stuff. Little things though, like this curved dome thing. They don't do curves on Drake. They're a lot more boxy and stuff. But
docking collar.
Like you said, it was a docking collar, but then again, it would need to be kind of straight here at the bottom, and it doesn't go straight at the bottom to go into the body. It just kind of is curving. So it could totally be a docking collar though as well. I won't rule that 100%. But then the two little gun things here are kind of like in the way for that as well. So it's again enough to hang yourself. We're not going to really know what this is until it comes out. But I lean more towards an explorer or cargo ship or something of that nature. Again, I won't rule out a fighter 100%, but I'm talking on the scale of like a percentage or likelihood. I just don't see them doing that because
and I agree that we're not seeing really any weapons and all that stuff like you would expect to see on a heavy fighter. To be fair, we don't see that on what we think is the Guardian MX silhouette either. There's still a lot of stuff here though that does make me question mark it. The landing gear or the deliberate obfuscation of the landing gear. It looks very strange. You know, the little winglets coming off the bottom actually on that right side is actually one of the weirdest parts to me.
Well, the only ship that has wings even remotely similar to this is the Reliant. It's not exactly the same.
It reminds me a tiny bit on the thing on the head of the Vulture.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about though is the size of the two wings, where this one is literally essentially half the size of the other one. And unlike the Corsair, there is not two wings. There is only, and what I mean by that is two on one side. So there's three wings total on the Corsair. This only has two. The only way that this thing then flies asymmetrical is if the thing rotates and it goes vertical. There is just no way that it does asymmetry, and they have removed. There is now multiple evidences of them removing asymmetry and making like a fake asymmetry, right?
They've said that before. Yeah.
Mercury Star Runner, the Corsair itself is one big wing, but two little wings that essentially is the same weight. So that's how they make it up. So the only way this thing flies is vertical. It just doesn't work any other way. Unless they've somehow all of a sudden rechanged the flight model so the whole cab turns sideways and it flies sideways. Like I can't think of any other way. You know, like a fake sideways, almost like the Saulian. How it lands, that type of thing. But I just
one thing I will say, since you're on the topic of the wings, because the whole big wings on a heavy fighter issue, the only thing I'll say about that is that only really matters, especially if you're in space, that only really matters or has any sort of footprint on the situation if a lot of the weapons are mounted on the wings. And if a lot of the weapons are mounted on the actual fuselage, then it really doesn't matter if the wings get blown off. It's not going to affect the ship all that much.
The flight will, though. Like, think about Redeemer. When you knock off the engines off that thing, it just goes absolutely haywire. There's a lot of ships when the wings come off, they just can't fly for shit. We'll see in time. I've heard really out there. Go Trist.
The point of the wings is to have good atmospheric flight, right? That's why the Corsair has it. Why put it on a fighter?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a bit of a waste on a fighter because the fighter's got to be really maneuverable, and it's more about speed and stuff like that. So I see it a bit as a waste. So if it does have the wings, I think it just removes the fighter element for me. I know that Corsair's a thing, but you also got to realize that first and foremost, it is sold as an explorer, and it carries like a rover and a crap load of cargo. So it's like a combat cargo. It's not strictly combat. So if it's like that, where it's cargo and combat, I'll give you that, right? I could give you that.
I think that's the whole point, is that the Corsair has turned into this weird albatross that they don't know what to do with. It's like an exploration ship, but it also can do general purpose stuff. But oh man, no, it's way overpowered in terms of
I don't agree with that.
Like they don't know what to do with it.
I don't agree with that. It's halfway between. So when it came out, where the Redeemer was and where the Connie was, it fell right in the middle. It was literally half a gunship and half a Corsair, and you can see that because they lowered the cargo count, but it has up the gun. So it was this ship between the Redeemer. So now it would be between the Paladin and the Connie. It's definitely got a place. I totally see it.
But do you think that recent nerf though shows that they're a little bit concerned about where the Corsair sits?
That nerf was more along the lines because all the guns were on the pilot. That's all that really was. Look, and in the final game, you'll be able to do that on any ship. You can use the MFDs to set the guns to whoever you want. It's just it doesn't matter. It's a balance change. Well, that's all.
Here's one more thing about the Drake heavy fighter idea that I had, and it's kind of funny because I probably won't buy a Drake heavy fighter. It's not that important to me. The other big reason I thought, that makes sense that's what it would be is, for one, I do think it's Drake. But I was the Drake they've covered so much. I was trying to think, well, where are their holes? They have a hole in the heavy fighter category, and
the medium.
Yeah, would the Cuddy be considered a medium combat ship? I've heard it called that before, but I never considered it that.
No, it's not. Okay. It's that's the other thing, is if this is a cargo ship, it treads on the Cutlass. That's why it's so weird. That's why I don't think it's a cargo ship. I think it's something else.
Vinny DBT says a Drake bounty hunter like Slave One. I mean, it could be a bounty hunter ship. Could be cool.
That would then be my guess, right? Because if you've seen my video, that's my final estimate.
That's right.
I think it's a bounty hunter. I think interesting, even though that completely falls into the Cutlass Blue.
I'm going to throw this out
Even
there.
size-wise.
If it's a medium ship, it's probably going to have a couple of variants like the other medium ships.
Yeah,
That's true.
but
Yeah.
that's why I went with transportation first, and then prisoner transport from there to have variants in mind already. But that would basically the same as the Cutlass Blue, just cooler, and I think cooler would sell.
You know what's funny about this is the speculation's so wild on it. This is actually the ship I'm most excited for, even though I don't have any idea if I'm going to buy it because I don't know what its role is. But I'm so curious about it.
Yeah, because of the unknowns, it's just much more intriguing. That's why I want to know what it is. And I think
one thing I will say,
I think this is AIE at best because they're going to hold it off as long as they can because they know it's going to sell.
Can I tell you one thing I really like about some Drake ships, though? For example, the Corsair and this ship, if it is in fact Drake, let's just assume it is. I love that the wings do fold up because it shows that height is not a matter. It's more of area. And that means it would work perfect with the Kraken. I'm just going to say that I love that little bit of synergy. You know what I mean?
Just on a side note real quick, we are starting to wrap up. So if you guys want to get some questions or statements in, the bot has been up the entire time. I haven't had a single question come in. So we are getting to that end of the show where we're going to start to wrap up what we're talking about. We've got about an hour left. Grim's got to go off in about 25 minutes. He's got some family stuff he's got to do, but me and Triss will be here for the rest of the hour. But yeah, get your questions, start getting your questions in so we can go on back and forth with you guys a bit. But we'll essentially be going back over all the ships we've talked about today. So if you've got something that you think it is and you'd like us to check, please feel free to get that in a statement or a question, and the bot will pick it.
Yeah. I will say while we're waiting on those that I hope you guys are right in terms of this ship, though. I primarily just because I'm not a big combat guy, so a heavy fighter wouldn't like totally excite me. So I do hope it's something a little bit more interesting. Even a bounty hunting ship would be kind of cool. So I'm all about it. I'm all about being wrong on this one for sure. I just you know.
I look at it from the point that it clearly looks like it's a medium-sized ship. So do you guys kind of let's get some common ground? Is it medium? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I actually would agree with that. Its form factor size minus the wings is medium. Yeah.
Okay. So if we do that, why would they do double ups? Right. So my brain goes to what manufacturers don't we have, and that's why Mirai came out really strong because it's the combat arm of MISC.
Yeah.
And,
unfortunately.
You know what I mean? Cardi's done, MISC is done. That Consolidated Outland that you just saw before is more than likely the medium for those guys. You start to go through, there's very few manufacturers left. Crusader's gone. Unless it's some true outlier, like that's really bizarre, like Kruger or whatever. I just can't see us. Tell me who it could be. Like, tell me what. Aegis?
I'll tell you this.
Is it
I don't know how you guys feel.
Or Anvil?
No, I'll tell you this. I don't know how you guys feel, and this is no one I've talked to has agreed with me on this. But I actually do not like what CIG did with Mirai. I don't like that it's like the combat, but also like the high performance racing side of MISC. To me, it would have been better for it to either been the combat arm of MISC or to been like the racing or luxury sort of side of things. Because, for example, I would think of something like.
Explain this.
I know, but I think of things like. Well,
like what the
I know. Well, actually, let's talk about the TAC real quick because we didn't really talk about that. Let's talk about that real fast. Do you think the TAC will have a tie-in with Aegis like the Gemini does?
I don't know,
the Starlancer?
Because this is an abomination. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things that really got to our grid was hearing what John and Ben kind of said, because they basically told him, and he didn't really kind of hear it, was law don't matter. It don't matter at all, right? They just make what they want to make, and then the law people come along. Well, that's why the whole law got thrown out on Crusader, because they're just making the cool shit they want to make, and the law people just come along and fill everything in. So they wanted to make a Starlancer attack, but it's broken all their own law, because this should have technically been Mirai collab. That's what they should have done. And if they had time to go back and add some textures to this, I'd rebrand it as Mirai Attack, and it would sell really well because it makes a lot of sense.
And you've seen this many times. You saw it with Drake as well. I know Paul has a great video on this where, with Drake, it was, when Star Citizen was first going, Drake was the pirate company. But then when CIG wanted to start building out other roles for Drake, like the Vulture and industry and stuff like that, well, the lore started adapting to that, and they got a new CEO, and the old CEO went out. The new CEO wants to transform the company and wants to take it more for the people. And so again, you're exactly right. They can write their way out of any of these,
but at
just
the end,
gameplay decisions.
But at the end of the day, it kind of shits people that they say, "Oh, we have this really deep, important law." No, the law don't make any matter at all because they'll just change it to suit their needs. So that's what disappoints people like Astropub and Algrid, because
the ship is going to be popular, though.
It'll be,
and I think it's going to,
no doubt. But again, it's another ship like the Ares that breaks law, and I just want to clarify that because they brought out Mirai and said, "Oh, it's essentially performance, which is now seems to be combat and racing." There's a ship that's combat by Misk, and the Miseries that falls into the same boat as well. They both should have been put under the Mirai brand, rebranded, retextured slightly, and made Mirai. Now, I do hope that this kind of comes with a green texture like the Miss or the Misery, because that then shows that they are kind of military based and maybe working a little bit more with Aegis or the military. But the other way you could explain it is that the Star Lancer is just a much older ship, and that it was formed before Mirai brand was formed, and that explains it away in lore.
Yeah, and if we're to go with the lore of things, even though we just sort of said that doesn't matter, if we're to go with the lore of this, the ship is making its debut at a UEE Invictus event. So you would think the military is adopting this ship in some way for official use. So, you're exactly right, though. They break their own rules all the time.
Yeah, so don't
I don't know.
Lore is great for trying to help with speculation and stuff like that, but you can never take it as concrete because they change it on a whim, which is a really unfortunate. So this one, as I said, I think is the most interesting. It's probably why some of your videos did really well, by the way, Tristan, because people want to know what this is. It's a big, massive question mark type of thing, and I really enjoyed watching your perspective on it. I've really enjoyed talking to Grim about it. I know me and Grim riff on each other a bit, but it's all in harmless fun. And I have no doubt that some of the questions that'll come in today, that there'll be people asking some stuff about it. So I think that's about everything I really wanted to go over, unless there's any other ships that you guys think that we kind of missed. Unless you want to go back to some of the other ones in the leaks, but I think a lot of the ones in the leaks have kind of panned out into things like the MTX and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything else in there that we can kind of look forward to. I think we've kind of...
I think we covered it.
Oh, Trish, you sent me a bunch of messages. These are your stuff. All right, okay, let's show these real quick. No, we're showing them. So this is what tell us what we're looking at here, Trish. I'll let you talk for yourself.
That's the small base builder we talked about earlier, the CNOU Frontier.
This one.
That I made up.
So that one.
Yep, and just what I told you.
Yep. So yeah,
the other ones are
like a cargo grant. I think he's done pretty well. I think the only thing that there was something about the landing gear I said to you. I can't remember what it is now. There was something about the landing gear.
Yeah, I made a mistake. The landing gear that I have in the front there, that you see there, if you look at the silhouette in motion, you see that is supposed to be on the back and not on the front. So something about that is off, definitely.
But I can definitely kind of see it. I can kind of, it's got Nomad vibes. It's got Pioneer vibes. Yeah. I would probably think they'll change the color a little bit just to they tend to do that just to change, like they won't do orange. Like we're already seeing on the Pioneer, it's going to yellow as an example. So.
Oh yeah. No, it's supposed to be the exact color of the Pioneer, but I think this one is not color corrected.
I do like the little hint of the thrusters here, but they've become like almost like armor panels.
Yeah, your gears too make me think of those integrated landing gear extractors from the Pioneer. That'd be cool if this was a fabrication ship. It'd be cool if it could like pull straight from the ground resources to fabricate. Just saying, CIG, free ideas.
Yeah.
I said the same. That would be cool.
All right,
even though we know nothing about that.
Yeah, no,
I know.
Yeah. Right. The other one you had here, let's go through this real quick because these are really cool. Which do you want to show all three of these or just one of them as is in
You can show all of them.
I'll show all of them. All right. So I will open this one. So this is the first
one. Real quick, guys, I do have to run. I apologize. I have a family thing I have to deal with. Execute. Apologies. But you guys have a great rest of your show. Everyone chat. Thank you very much. Trist, keep doing good work, buddy. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
See you, mate.
Bye, Grim.
Take care.
Thanks, man.
Which camera were you? You were camera 1. Oh, turn that off. There we go. Right. So he can drop out, and we will go back to this one. We go back. So yeah, cool. I'm all good now. That one. Right, cool. All organized. Right. So tell us about this one.
Can you do the gray one first?
Can I do the grey one first? I guess.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. It's all right. I just.
No, it's because that's the order. Actually, the first one I did was the yellow one, but that doesn't matter. The gray one is my first try where I have basically the tiny Corsair.
Yep.
Oh no, we're the okay. So
I'm
yellow one.
opening them. I'm opening them all. Yeah, they're done. I've opened them all.
Right, so this is basically just tiny Corsair, what we talked about, just what Grim said, just to get the heavy fighting stuff away from the Corsair and onto something smaller. The weird wing on the bottom, unless no one knows what that's supposed to be, there's an image in a super old Jump Point magazine where they have a ship that looks somewhat like the Herald, but it has the massive wing on the bottom that looks completely stupid. But obviously that is supposed to rotate, and then you have your 3 wings that you talked about earlier that you would need to have this balanced.
Yep.
And I'm not sure, I put it on the bottom, but it could also move to the side, so it's then like the Corsair, 2 on one side, 1 on the other. Doesn't matter, but it's basically just saying it's a small Corsair. And then from there I went, I thought this could be a transport. Yep. I go to the red one.
Red one? Yep.
So I thought this was like the white one, the gray one was more like a transport ship, actually in my videos I have an animation of that flying around like a personal shuttle transport, like where you transport people.
If you link me the video, I'll chuck it in the chat so people can go see it on their own or whatever. But it is a really great video. And the way it flies around looks really creepy in a really cool way.
It looks really creepy. Yeah, that's what I like about it.
Yeah,
So I thought first it could have been like just a shuttle, like the Horizon shuttle, but not on Horizon, but like on what did I say?
A Kirsten or something. There is somewhere you mentioned. But yeah.
Anyway, and that is you just asked why do something double, and I think they have no single passenger transport ship that is not luxury, or at least like semi-luxury. So having a dirty, gritty people transport, that would be something they have not a single one.
Or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think in time we will see more and more double ups. It's just currently they're trying not to double up. But I think this year has shown that they don't give a shit about that anymore. They're just taking the gameplay they have and doubling up because it's a very easy. Well, look at the Golem. Look at the Misfortune. Really easy to do, and you know, it gives people variety and choice. And they've already got that gameplay in, so they don't. It's free essentially. That's why they've done it. So,
yeah. And then from there, because I thought that would be too boring as just a single ship, I said, why not put a bounty hunter? Like in addition to that, because I mean, people also speculated about the Slave 1, and basically that's something like that. And actually, I went not Slave 1 because Slave 1 is very aggressive, very fighter against fighter. It's a fighter basically, and I'm going more like the Razor's Crest, where it's a heavier, slower.
Yeah. Like a
bounty hunter where you just
like a tank as opposed to a DPS.
Yeah, right. But not even supposed to fight at all. It's just your home where you then put like a million frozen people in the back, and then you only go to deposit them when you have like hundreds of frozen people in there.
What's this one? This one almost looks like construction of some type.
Yeah, well, most of my comments said ground extraction because the landing gear looks so massive and big, and so I just tried to have something ground extracting wise. I don't think that's it. I think, as Grim said earlier, that the big foot and landing gear thing is just to confuse us, but just to please some people, and also because some said that the cockpit looks very industrial. On the other ones, I added the cockpit on the top, but on the silhouette, you only really see the bottom part there, and that to me looks like the cockpit from the Vulture. Like super industrial.
It does have an industrial cockpit. Yeah, I really do hope it's an industry ship now I think about it, because that would explain away the wings. It explains away all the weird problems. It also allows it to fly vertically, like I've been saying, or you could have vertical if you really need to. Makes a lot of sense. And again, I don't know about you, but I'm just sick of seeing combat ships. Like this, we've just had too many of them. We need a lot more industry, and we need a lot more gameplay in general. Let's be honest. But the thing I really love about these, mate, is the same thing as that I did with the AI generated stuff for the Titan suits. Is it just allows you to dream a bit, right? And I think it's really important in a game where we don't have a lot. We're getting more and more as time goes by, right? But like there's a thing Essay says, up until now, all we can do in Star Citizen is speculate, right? And I know there's a lot of people don't like speculation, but God, it is great to dream. And that's what speculation is. It's just dreaming about what could be. Now, 90% of it is never going to come to pass, but it's fun to float with the idea. And I think this is that's why I really enjoyed these. It just like, I can see the vision that you were trying to go for. And I love being like when I say something, it's not the same as being able to visually, like the way I look at it, it draws an image in your head that's different to what I'm seeing. This is on paper, so we're all seeing the same thing is what I'm trying to say. Really well done. I really enjoyed the videos, by the way. Great.
Thank you.
Right. Let's have a look and see if we've got any questions coming in, because we are getting into that part of the show. Oh, you linked them in the video. This is the video that we're talking about, by the way. There is 2 of them. Is part 1 linked in and part 2 linked in that somewhere?
For sure.
Or you can go to the channel for the video and find it there, yeah?
Yeah, but part 2 is the one with the Drake one, so...
Yeah. So he's linked the Drake one, but the first one is the one with the solid outland looking medium type of one. So you'll find that all on his channel. Really good watch. They go for about 20 minutes each, don't they?
More like 10.
Okay, pretty sure.
And you just said that that's the most interesting one, but this one it got half the views as the CNU one got for some reason. I thought this one would be the one that catches everyone's attention, but apparently.
Well, mate, again, you often find as a content creator, the shit you enjoy, no one else enjoys. So we do these videos that we enjoy, like the Titan suit one I'm talking about, or I did one with Morphologist about science and all that. Me and Asgard got heaps out of that because we were talking about something that we don't often get to talk about, so it's like new and fresh for us. And then other people come and say, and it's like, oh, this is boring. I'm not interested in that. I want to see the new shiny or whatever, you know? So what we get out of it personally is not always what the viewers get out of it, and that's just an interesting thing you'll learn as you go along the way. Yeah. But
on this one, I would agree that that's by far the most talked about silhouette.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. Right. So Cody Fox 00 says, and if you want to see these questions, by the way, they're in a channel just above called Stream Questions. The purple boxes are Twitch and the red boxes are YouTube, and I'll tick them off as we read them. Right, so Cody Fox 00 says they just added the Fleet Week event mission to the PU, Hunt the Polaris, and are keeping the rewards hidden. Do you think that it might be for the F7 upgrade again? I have no clue. I do know that it was originally an Idris and they've changed it to a Polaris, so that is kind of a bit telling that they might be trying to hide it. Does that mean they could flick it back really quick? And I don't know. What do you think about that one, Tristan? In regards to that mission,
I don't know. It's all speculation.
How does you make you
only
feel?
think...
I know you're only going by feel, but just tell me what you think. What does your instinct tell you?
My instinct is that they planned a massive battle with big ships for this and then couldn't finish the Perseus, and then now they have to make up something. That honestly is what I thought.
Yeah, it probably could be
when I heard about it.
Yeah, right. Agent 1213 says, question, does Grim like the Ironclad? Yeah, he does. He's a big Drake fanboy. He I like all ships a lot. I'm just a ships guy. That's kind of, as is Asgard. That's why we talk about ships so much. But yeah, I'm a fan of the Ironclad. I actually helped someone get an Ironclad this week. They wanted one. They were a new person to the game, so it's a bit of fun that I had this week.
What do you mean helped him get it?
So basically he got it for about $275 using CCUs and stuff like that, rather than buying it for $450. Yeah. Right. And then Morgoth says, does the Paladin have prisoner capsule on the belly? Well, that's my question. No, it does not seem to have a prisoner capsule. It is purely just gunship, nothing but gunships, gunships for days, just guns everywhere. It's essentially what the Redeemer was, and they've moved the Redeemer back to what it should have been, which was the more of a tactical insertion craft. not and long range escorter, not the. So essentially, it will go into combat, do something very tactical, like take out one thing, and then get the hell out of dodge because it's got shields and lasers. Where if you have ballistics, you're a bit more defensive, and you hang around. And the Paladin seems to be more in the defensive. It looks like it's got a lot more armor, as an example, a lot more aggressive, and it'll actually stay in the fight. But it won't be doing a tactical thing like the Redeemer. The Redeemer's going in with shields. It's trying to get in there quickly, get people in or out, and yeah. So they're similar but different. You do not want to hang around in a Redeemer because shit will go bad if you stay too long. Essentially.
Also, a big amount of the bottom of the Paladin is the rail that transports the turret from the top to the bottom.
Yeah. You essentially, if you look at the Valkyrie and you kind of essentially cut off the entire cargo bay, that is the Paladin, because it basically loses that whole thing, but you kind of keep the structure of it. And I think my imagination, right, and you feel free to correct me on this, I think the Vanguard will be somewhere between the two, where it'll probably have the cargo bay, but probably be more armored like the Valkyrie. If you get not the Valkyrie, so the Paladin. So you kind of get these three levels, like the Valkyrie, that's like the fully kitted out cargo area, but low armor. Then you get heavy armor with no cargo at all on the Paladin, and then the Valkyrie's like this heavy transport one, which is a bit of both. I don't know. That's kind of where my brain goes.
No, I agree. There was a lot of speculation of the Paladin having cargo too in the back, but that's not possible.
Pete is not happy that Sangropa won a ship. Okay. Well, you win one day, Pete. It's fine. Right, we're up to. That was the one we just did. So we are down to Red Marine, and Red Marine says, question, isn't that sneak peek is for sure the rail that moves on the he's trying to say Paladin. He's clearly talking on the phone and fat fingering terribly bad because I'm having trouble reading it. But I think we did talk about that at the time. That it's a
okay, sure.
Meaning it's a. I think you would agree it's some kind of rail, yeah, for a turret or rail system. It looks like it. I can probably go back to the image actually. I don't think I closed.
Yeah, but just to summarize that, it's a lot tinier. The Paladin has 4 guns on that, and they are a lot higher of the railing. So that's definitely a different one.
Here we go.
This is about half the size of the Paladin at best.
I think we can say it's a rail. I actually start to think that it's a part of the Grey Cat MTC or the MTX, and I think it's just the turret. I think it's just the turret packs away. But I think we can agree it's a rail system, regardless. Like we can take the ship out of it, just say or vehicle, and just say it's a rail system because it looks like the turret packs into the roof and it comes out. So almost like the Ursa, but instead of the Ursa going up and down to the side, it just goes up and down. Type of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I reckon that's the Grey Cat MTX or NTX, whatever they. Please get better names. It's terrible. And or at least make your acronyms be like a word. So raft or someone had really cool name for one of the drone. You know how Grim's doing the capital. Argo capital
thing.
Really cool name for one of the drones was BVR. The Argo Beaver. I thought it was really clever. Really, really clever. It worked really, really well. And the Argo Capital, someone called it CRFT, the Argo Craft. I love those names. Some of the names they've come up with in those streams have been spot on. Someone had DMD and it didn't make as much sense, but as soon as he made it BVR, I went, yes, that's amazing. Like a little beaver building a dam. I thought that's what I visualized. So a little drone called a beaver makes a lot of sense, like a little worky.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's just a bit too cute for CIG.
I think it's clever, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah, no, me too.
All right, next question. Here we go. So that was Red Marine. So we're on to Life is Just for Games. Question, what do you think about the Polaris nerf to shields from 900k to 500k? I think that's just clearly a rebalancing as they bring things in like the Idris and other ships that are clearly coming. They obviously overtune a lot of stuff and they have to rebalance them and it just takes time to come around. Or is there anyone? Every other ship they've released in existence, anyone? You get what I'm trying to say? Like, as they come in, they will be constantly rebalancing, retuning. I'm sure it will not be the last time the Polaris gets a hit or buff, even as things move up and down. What would you say about that one, Trist?
Yeah, same. Especially with the event coming up now. Maybe it's just that they figured it's too time consuming for that.
All right, we're down to the last
Maybe
six.
it's just...
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no. That's all.
Last 6 questions. So if you want to get a question in, now is a good time. We've got about 30 minutes left before we're going to wrap up today. So yeah, please get a question if you'd like to get answered. Right, Cody Fox 00 says, my question is whether you think that the F7A upgrade will be reward for the Hunt the Polaris mission. They just added into the PTU with a placeholder reward. It could be a whole bunch of things. You're essentially asking me what I think it will be. There's so many different things it could be. Yes, they did do the because the other hunt one that they did was hunt the CIG devs, and if you got it, you actually got it F7. Was it an F8?
F8.
An F8 in.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something akin to that again.
You got the ship.
Yeah. So maybe you get a Polaris variant or something. I don't know. That's again, if it's a hunt the Polaris, that's a group effort though. You know, you're essentially tailing that to orgs. It's no longer just one pilot that can go numero uno. It's a group effort. So I would hope that it's probably in line to match up with the org. So
I think of it. I mean, we don't really know, right? But
no.
I thought of it more of like a server thing, like the like Xenothread, where we all have to work
that
together.
would be cool.
So
and everyone that's
so I don't think there will be a crazy reward for that.
Yeah, everyone that's in the area when it dies or whatever, they get something. Yeah, that would work. Yeah,
and so I would expect that basically anyone, because it's so tied to the IAE, I would expect this something that basically anyone can finish. And so I think the F7 might be a bit of a big reward for that.
Maybe it's just access to buy a skin or something like that, or
yeah, that makes more sense.
And it could be as low as a forum badge, you know. There's nothing there that points to it. I'm sure someone may find something in the files in the next coming weeks. Yeah, it's really hard to predict where that's going to go. Yeah, I can't really call that one at all. Right, Michael Mansfield says, question, I am very interested in data running. Do you think it could be only data runner from one side of the jump point to another, or will they be spanning acquire data from other players? No, it'll be data from every which way you can possibly imagine. They have talked about this in the future. And if you are sending a message as an example, drones will be actually sent through jump points to the other side. So if I'm in Pyro and Tristpwn's in Stanton, and I'm at, say, Ruin Station, and he's at Horizon, I send my message from Ruin Station, and it will travel all the way to the station at the jump point, Pyro to Stanton jump point. It'll then be loaded into a drone. That drone will then head through the jump point, come out at the other side, land at the station. Then the station then sends that message to Horizon that is then delivered to Tristpwn. It is that sequence of events. So if you're sending them multiple distances, they will take time to physically travel there. It is not an instant thing. And I think that's one of the things that this game is probably missing a bit, because people are just going to send messages on Discord. If I have to send Tristpwn messages and take 30 minutes, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Right. So the only thing you can do is make it so it's like an encrypted message, and you have to put the game information in the message. Right. That's the only way to do it. The stuff in that message that I cannot send outside the game. Like it's encrypted from go to woe. And the only way to get it is to get physically send it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was more thinking like sharing maps or data that you required in game that you can't like just tell anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, well, again, you don't ever know what the actual coordinates are, but the coordinates are recorded in the message. So you can only visually see it, but it's not like 34 latitude, longitude, but you know, it's just, this is where it is.
But what I would also add is that your information is pretty old, right? They haven't talked about this in quite a while.
Again, until they talk about it again, it never changes. That is basically how things work with CRG. If they've never talked about it, It is golden until they change it. And we heard that again when we were at CitizenCon. That's just how it is. So people come out and say, yeah, it's been 10 years. Look at what happened down to the Spaceman. They didn't talk about that for almost 13 years. It came out and it changed very little when they updated it. And all they really added was the lore of the Vanguard orbs and stuff. Not the Vanguard, sorry, the Vandal orbs, stuff like that. It was just more story than anything else. So yeah, it's all.
I don't know. They haven't talked about base building for quite some time, and then it did change quite a lot. So
that's what I'm saying, though. Until they talk about it again.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's more than likely going to change, but you can't just say it's going to be this when you don't know what it's going to be. So you just got to talk about what they talked about last until they change.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So on the same page. The glass sword. Is there an existing hull that you would hope to see variants made for that would use some expansion? Mine would be the Hawk. That's a good choice, actually. Hawk could use some variants. Interesting. Can you think of a ship that you would like to see a variant of?
Yeah, the Spirit. But I don't want to say which one because
you're doing
I
a
want
video.
to build that.
You're gonna do a video.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Also because it's a lovely ship.
It's the only medium ship I own. So that way, I love the C1 Spirit. I'm a massive fan. It's my A to B.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Pissball Pete says the MSR. The MSR needs so much love. It's not funny. That thing started out as a medium ship, and it got so fat that it turned into a constellation-sized ship, and it's got so much empty space in it. It's disgusting. The whole ship is on stilts essentially to walk around on these vents. The vents were meant to go up and down through the walls and all that. Doesn't do any of that. Yet there's space around the ship to do that. They just didn't, and it's only got one entrance in, and all the components being one room off to one side at the back. So you're completely vulnerable to attack. Is just crazy because you could just attack that back left.
Yeah,
and you're done. Because it just any component goes down, you're stuffed.
Also, to go back to that question, I think it's one of the coolest and most liked ships in the verse, and data running is a very niche thing. So I would definitely like some more useful configurations for that.
Well, you can kind of look at the MSR and then kind of see. I just realized the ship we forgot to speculate on. Anyway, we'll talk about it in a minute. Is the Corsair? The Corsair could use variants as well for exactly the same reasons as the MSR. When we were talking about Invictus, you know how he brought up that Drake Defense Con? I put it in my brain and then I forgot. The Raelian at Alien Week. That was the one I wanted to speculate on with you guys as well. We totally forgot to talk about that one. So what's your kind of thoughts on the Raelian and the likelihood of it potentially coming? Because much like the Ironclad, it is on the list of ships that would be ready round about now.
Is it? I didn't know that.
So the three ships that were shown in going in a grey box, like going back and essentially coming forward, the Ironclad, the Raelian, and the Apollo, they would all roughly be ready around Invictus.
So I would really hope so, because that is one of the ships I'm incredibly excited for. Their alien ships are just, I mean, all their ships are great, but the alien ships are just out of this world.
Because they're a bit unique, like the Not Drake or whatever we were talking about. Like it's just different. Yeah, you know, I agree 100%.
And also the most of their like the Drake ships and stuff, like they are impressive, but technically I know how to do that. It's nothing other games haven't done, but these, like the Sulan, that's just, you have to turn your head every single corner to make sense out of the shapes. It's just crazy how they built that. And so that in bigger would be incredibly interesting to me.
And we don't have a big alien ship like that at all, do we?
Right.
There just isn't one that size. The Banu probably would have been the first one, the Merchantman, but it just didn't get done. So this is kind of going to, besides a fighter size or a starter, this is the first kind of multi-crew, I guess I would call it, alien ship.
And so to go back to the silhouette, something I did not make a video out of it because I couldn't finish it. I thought that the Guardian we talked about earlier was not a Guardian at all, and hopefully I was hoping for it to be something GetTech. That just looks like the Guardian from the outline, but then once it rises, just like the Raiden you talked about, these four things turn and twist, and it just gets a completely different shape. But I couldn't make that work, so I don't really believe that anymore. But I would have liked that, and I would have thought that they again overestimated themselves a bit with the Raylan because it's too complex, and so they started with something smaller that has the same ideas and the same shape language and stuff, and then they finished the Raylan after this smaller Getek ship.
Yeah.
I don't believe that anymore, but just to say, I would be incredibly excited for that.
It's just really hard to kind of work this all out because as I kind of said, like the CIG people I've talked to are telling me we're going to be eating pretty for ships, and it really does look that way. Like there's just so much coming around this time that I can't put the numbers together. Like normally we've got like 3 ships at most in a vehicle done, right? And now I'm looking at it going, there's like 10 things here. This makes no sense. Like so all the things that's what kind of why I wanted to do this show in a way, because there's just so many there that I can say, here, pick 3 or 4 of these. This is what you're going to Invictus, right? But the ones I wrote down at the start are probably the logically most ones because we've also seen them appear in the files. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Right. Next question. We've got a couple more questions that have come in. Crusader Maximilian says, if Drake Heavy Fighter Wings thing looks to you guys as a bounty hunter ship, wouldn't they wait to show this off due to the delay of Bounty Hunting 2.0? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But they have been talking about Bounty Hunting was also meant to come out around about the same time as engineering. So it's still being worked on. It's probably just slowed down because there's less people working on it. So whether that means that it was meant to come out by now, or does it get pushed back to September, October, AIE? Who knows? So again, if they were working on the Marky Mark as the test bed, doing another bounty hunting ship to double down on the gameplay they have, much like the Golem and the Misfortune, that makes a lot of sense to me to have a second one there ready to go. They've clearly would bring up speed the Hawk, and they'd also bring up the speed the Cutlass Blue. So you'd have 4 kind of bounty hunting ships there. I don't think I've missed it. Oh, maybe the Avenger Warlock is not the Warlock, the Stalker as well. So they'd have 5, and I think that's reasonable. Would you kind of agree with that? 5 for bounty hunting, probably you would almost see more later.
Absolutely, and I would also kind of thought. I would think that's much easier to implement than base building, so I would have finished that before.
Right, Sandgroper says, if we are talking about variants, how about a Nomad base builder? Well, that's kind of what you were talking about. All it would really take is for changing the grav tool or adding a crafting head. Yeah, I could see that as well. I could also see them going back and doing the Nomad and adding a variant. Yeah, wouldn't rule that out at all. Right, Life. What about you, Trist? You can see that or as well, or?
Yeah, why not? I just think that it makes more sense. I think the Nomad is so different from the Pioneer visually and art-wise.
Yeah.
That they would, I think if they made another base building or crafting ship, they would tie it to the Pioneer and not the Nomad. But
yeah, it makes sense to make a new one rather than reuse something you already have. I can see that too. Right, Life is Just for Game says, what do you think about the Polaris nerf? Oh, he's re-asking the same question, so we've done that. So we're down to the last 2 questions. So Parker XPS says, question, what other professions for Crusader? I think you'll probably see some of them coming up with the Intrepid variants most likely when they come at the end of the year. Yeah, there's a whole bunch in there. We have talked about it doing a bounty hunting variant because you can kind of see the 2-4 cargo things work very well for fighting those little pod things in. Data running's another one, obviously, because we've already seen that in the MSR. I don't know. I'll put that off to you, Tristpwn. Any that you could see Crusader falling under besides, what are they at the moment? Combat cargo and data running. That's their only real professions right now.
I know that's
sort of transport.
That's a bit weird, but I would like kind of a fighter from them. I mean, they have the
Ares.
The Ares, but the Ares is only basically a decapital ship, so something Ares sized or maybe a touch bigger that is just against other fighters. And the reason I want that, and I've actually drawn that too in an episode on my side, because I think they need some kind of ship around Horizon, like the cloud car from Star Wars, like a patrol ship that is not looking too aggressive, but still is like the police car of the clouds. And I think the Ares is not suited for that. I think they need to have some kind of presence around Horizon and some kind of police ship.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right, we're on to the last question then for today, and the last question today is by the Subgenius 5150, who says, any ideas as to what ship the sneak peek pick is in the newsletter? Well, we did go over that. We'll go over it real quick, but we believe it is actually a vehicle. Go back through and find it now. Just give me a hot minute. Man, we have so many things open from today. There it is. I'll let you say what you think it is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we all agreed on, the three of us back then, that this is a tiny image, so it's not the Pioneer or nothing like that. Also because we see 2 guns and not 4. We see that the guns are a lot closer to the surface of whatever it is, so it's probably more like either like the small gray cat car thing, or even smaller, like maybe even I said it could even, like, size-wise, could be some Titan suit stuff, because I mean, of the defocus and the size of the screws there, this is tiny. This is not a railing on the Paladin.
Yeah, so you can kind of, looks like a recessed turret that kind of comes up the track. Got to see that wide area there. Oh wait, I got to go so I can point things. Back here, it looks like a track, and this turret is just recessed. I think almost like you see on the Ursa, but instead of going down the side of the vehicle, it's just going back into the roof of the vehicle, almost like this. A really simple recessed turret. And when you start to think of it like that, it's more than likely probably the Grey Cat NTC found in the files, or NTX, which is kind of like a little Grey Cat vehicle, but it could be something, again, completely different. But I think, as Trish said, it's more likely in the vehicle domain, small domain. I think we could say that it's a smaller thing than a bigger thing. The only thing kind of in that at the moment in the files is kind of like the Grey Cat. Yes. Right. With that, then we're going to be raiding today. So I'm thinking we're going to raid Red Monster SC. He is doing some bounty hunting missions. So I'm going to get that set up real quick. Raid. And Red Monster SC. And work. Yes, it did. Right. So say hello to Red Monster. Tell him what we're doing with speculation. Ask him what he reckons we're going to see in Invictus, and we'll be listing in from YouTube. So thank you for joining us. Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. With that, then, and they're gone. All right, with that, I'm going to turn the volume up. Let's have a little listen as we do.
You're about 9 centuries behind. Wow.
Channel raid
Well, I mean, it looks like,
activated.
you know, it looks more
Inforunners!
like something that NASA would issue.
What is up, guys? How we doing, Inforunners? Thank you for the huge raid. Appreciate
Yoda,
it.
did you pick the wrong hanger?
No, I'm clicking Red's hanger. It's just taking
Right, he looks pretty busy. We'll move on.
Yeah.
We'll leave him there.
There's our fantastic resources.
Welcome. You're grateful for the raid, no problem. All right, with that, then, where can people find you on the interweb, Trist, and your videos and stuff? People know where they can find your stuff.
Basically only on YouTube. I have an annoying handle because my Trist own handle, I took that myself like 20 years ago and I can't get back into that. So anyway, just look for my name and then some silhouette or Galaxy. Just use Trist on Galaxy and you will find my channel with
if
helmet.
you give me a link to the channel, I will put it in the description of this video on YouTube and pin it. Okay, so you just link it to me and I'll pin it. Right, with that, then, I've been Execute. Grim was here today, but he's not here anymore. He's been Tristpwn. We'll see you in the next one. Say goodbye, Trist.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye.